Spider-Man just committed voter fraud. Yeah. You're a fraud, Spider-Man. Spider-Man Loves Mary Jane is a comic series released in 2004-2007 about Mary Jane, which was aimed more at teenage girls than male readers. The series deals with Mary Jane fighting over Peter with Gwen Stacy, Flash Thompson looking like that one dude from My Hero Academia, and well, that's kind of it. It was pretty much just exclusively romantic drama and drama aimed at, young teenage girls. And now, while yes, I've watched and loved an unhealthy amount of romantic comedy anime in my time, this just is not for me, because, for a multitude of reasons, like how this is aimed at, young girls. The series was originally created because the Raimi films made Mary Jane very popular with teenage girls. The series scaled only for 4 issues because of low sales, though it was problematic soon after, but it did become a mainstay at Marvel. Like I said, only lasting until 2007 before it ever being brought back in any way outside of re-releases and a quote-unquote second season in 2009 that only lasted 5 issues. Side note, Luke Cage, Black Cat, and Jessica Jones are all retcons in this continuity to be teenagers, in which they make Jessica Jones a goth, Luke Cage just a dude who wants to date Mary Jane, and Black Cat is a violent troublemaker. Spider-Man the manga is a 1970s-1971 manga that was published in a monthly Shonen magazine. Originally, it was just a translation of stories released in America, but over time it became its own thing. Instead of Peter Parker, it stars Yuka Murray, who instead of losing his uncle to a criminal, accidentally murders somebody himself, and so becomes Spider-Man to atone for his crime. After the manga started adapting original stories made in America, the series became much darker, with a more realistic art style, and delved into Spider-Man controlling his darker side and his grim thoughts about living as a vigilante. Sadly, the official English translation of the series was cancelled after issue 31, leaving the rest of the series to up to fan translations. In 1996, a 2-part Spider-Man the Animated Series episode titled Make-A-Wish and Attack of the Octobot were released, in which Spider-Man is sent by Madame Web to visit a little girl named Maria Elizondo. By the end of the 2-part episode, Peter reveals his identity to her, and she'll tell him that she'll keep her secret. But why would Peter do this? Doc Ock knows about this little kid. Well, you see, at the very end of the episode, it's revealed that she's dying of leukemia. So some people theorize Peter did this because he knew that she was dying of cancer, so she wouldn't be able to tell anyone. But I don't think that was the intention of the episode, because that's really fucking dark. I think it was more just Peter being nice to a kid. Oh, wait, no, it was. This episode was adapted from the comic Amazing Spider-Man issue 248, in which Spider-Man reveals his identity to a kid named Timmy, and at the very end of the comic, it's revealed that Timmy's dying of leukemia and only has weeks to live. What the fuck? That was the intent. So, real quick, can we discuss the Marvel Wiki for Timmy, like the kid dying of leukemia in the comics? That's a fucking Margaret. Oh my god, why? Timmy has a 1 in energy rejection, speed, durability, fighting skills, strength, but he has a 2 in intelligence.
Oh.
You can't do that. Don't give a dying kid of leukemia a power. Timmy could theoretically be used in verse battles because he has a power scale. Yes. Jesus Christ. The Marvel Mangaverse, Ultra Continuity, created in the 2000s. Basically, one of Marvel comics were manga instead of comics. While this universe is Iron Man, Hulk, the X-Men, etc., Spider-Man is also here, and he plays a pretty decently sized role in the franchise, even having his own solo series in 2002. He's a member of the Spider Clan of Ninjas, and was taught martial arts by his Uncle Ben, also Sensei, who was later then murdered by this universe's Venom. This universe's Spider-Man has a pretty unique design, with a backpack being a permanent part of his design. This universe's Spider-Man would even go on to train his universe's Mary Jane into becoming Spider-Woman. He even appears in the Spider-Verse event, and as an alternate skin in Shattered Dimensions in Spider-Man PS4. In Spider-Man PS1, the final boss of the game is Carnage, who takes control of Doc Ock. In this form, he's known as Monster Rock. He's practically invincible, and you can't actually fight him. You can only run away. While he's only appeared in this game, and briefly in Ultimate Spider-Man, he's become a fan-favorite variation of Carnage, just for how terrifying he is. For example, if you listen closely to him as he chases you, you can hear him struggling to say, "Are you ready to die?" as he chokes on his words. Probably as a result of Doc Ock fighting back against Carnage, or the symbiote simply going down Doc Ock's throat. Truth in Journalism is a 2013 short film that's a tribute to both Venom and the 1992 mockumentary Man Bites Dog. Directed by Joe Lynch, this short tells the story of a French documentary crew documenting Eddie Brock around New York City, as Eddie tries to convince them that he's a good journalist. It's a really great short film that I don't want to give away too much about, even though it came out years and years ago. It was so good, in fact, that it was even shown at San Diego Comic-Con in 2013, and Joe Lynch himself was even considered to direct Venom by Sony. In Amazing Spider-Man issue 365 in 1992, Peter's parents come back from the dead despite them dying in a plane crash. According to Richard and Mary Parker, the Soviet Union had actually held them prisoner for years and staged their deaths. When Peter eventually opens up to his long-lost parents and even reveals his secret identity as Spider-Man, they suddenly reveal that they're robots that were created by Chameleon as revenge for the death of the Kraven the Hunter. They were meant to discover Peter Parker who Spider-Man was, and as soon as they found out, well, Chameleon's plan was complete. When Spider-Man then showed up to stop them, Richard Parker turned into whatever the hell this is, and battled him, while Mary Parker refused to be evil. And yes, they both end up dying as well, so Peter loses his parents yet again. Also, just to throw this in here, I'm not really super big on the whole Mary Parker and Richard Parker being agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and being badass spies. Yeah, TASM 2 didn't invent that concept. This has been a thing for a long time. I've never been too big on it. We'll be right back to Marvel's Ultimate Spider-Man 6 on Disney XD. Goblin, watch yourself fall, Silk Slinger! Stop the bombs and die! If I don't get you wet-hat by night, now you're running out of building! It's this more action than even Spider-Man can. A video game from Parker Brothers, the ones to beat. Now, back to the spectacular Spider-Man on GSW. Spider-Man the Other is an event that lasted from 2005 to 2006. It was sold in 12 issues and follows the 5 stages of grief as Peter realizes that he's dying because he's rejecting the spider side of him. It's a really weird event that has Peter strangling Tracer to death only for it to be revealed it's a robot. No, not my wife Tracer. Tracer from Marvel Comics, who is a very obscure Spider-Man villain. Has Peter entering a cocoon and shedding his old skin like a spider, in a scene in which a villain named Morlun literally rips out Peter's left eye and eats it. It's really weird. When Peter's reborn, he's given a ton of powers, like night vision and arthropod communication, along with stingers to come out of his wrists. But he's rarely ever seen using them since the event, probably because it's such a weird story. Alright, and there's also the title character, the Other. A giant spider god who is sometimes made up of millions of tiny little spiders. It's responsible for Peter gaining his powers. I'm not really a fan of this, but it exists. God damn it. Okay, so in Amazing Spider-Man issue 699, 2012, Peter, who's now in Doc Ock's body, realizes that he can access Doc Ock's old memory, and almost instantly discovers he now has Doc Ock's first-person memory of having sex with Aunt May right before the two were supposed to marry all those years ago. It's played off as a little ha-ha, but he still has those memories to this day, so Jesus Christ, that is horrible. So Spider-Man has quite a bit of Goblin news. Don't believe me? Well, there's Norman Osborn's Green Goblin, Harry Osborn's Green Goblin, Art Hamilton's Green Goblin, Philip Rich's Green Goblin, Arnold Donovan's Hobgoblin, Ned Leeds' Hobgoblin, Jason Manganiello's Jr.'s Hobgoblin, Daniel Kingsley's Hobgoblin, some random dude's Hobgoblin, Ray Goblin, Demo Goblin, Proto Goblin, Menace, the Green Goblin Construct, Iron Goblin, Goblin Plates, Red Goblin, and finally Android Green Goblin. But then there's the alternate universe stuff, like Shadow Goblin, Gwen Stacy Green Goblin, Black Goblin, Poison Green Goblin, the Green Goblin Clone, Goblin 2099, and Gobtron. I don't really have a joke to end this section off with. There's just a lot of goblins, and eventually we're probably just going to get into the Goblinverse comic events. Spidey's Super Stories was a live-action segment of a PBS show, The Electric Company, that ran from 1974 to 1977. It ran for 29 5-minute episodes dealt with Spider-Man dealing with extremely petty crimes. This is where Funny Money and the Wall came from. Other weird names in the show include the Tickler, a guy who tickles people so he can rob them. Silly Willy, a clown that takes out his frustrations by hitting himself with a rubber chicken in order to cause people to stop and laugh so he can rob them. The Sack, a man dressed in a 100-pound flour sack that throws vegetables at people. Count Dracula, just, Dracula, but he's played by Gordon Freeman. And an actual Yeti. That's it. There's no, that's just Yeti. Not only was this a show, there was also a comic book from 1974 to 1982 of the same name that went on for 57 issues. Thanos himself appeared in these comics, strangely enough. And finally, there was even a final record released of the show that included some audio stories as well as Spider-Man stories told in the show and comic. Spider-Man Training Studio was a 2007 short film packaged in a train mat punching bag, with the trained children having been Spider-Man by doing.
Let's learn the battle ready position. Put your feet in the battle footprints on your Spidey mat, and hold your arms up like this. This is the position you'll use to fire off your Spidey strikes.
Oh, cool. Teach us the Spidey strikes.
Please.
I know. We have to master the battle ready position first.
You're a quick study, that's exactly right. Let's go over them again. Spidey crouch.
Spidey crouch.
Swing stance.
Swing stance.
Battle ready.
Battle ready.
Great job, guys. You're ready to move on. You tried personal favorites. It looks like this. Let's start in the battle ready position. You turn your hips and blast downwards on the number 2 on your Spidey striker. Fine. Now you try.
Yeah, it's a little silly. But hey, it's just give kids to exercise, so, or maybe not exercise. Is this kind of exercising?
Start at the corner of your Spidey mat from Venom like this. I'll do it once to show you. Just like that.
What is this? Anyways, by the end of it, you take part in the battle against Venom, so I guess you really do become Spider-Man. Side out, am I the only one who thinks Venom beside this is really fetish big?
Prepare for battle. Battle ready position. It's your Spidey striker with a top knocker. Try a few cloblins. Hit hard. He's too strong. Use your kicks. Scorpion snap.
There's other weird stuff in this as well, like how there's a cutaway gag.
Bad guys have this thing about throwing buses. I'll never understand that. Anyways,
How it begins with Spider-Man whipping up children and breaking into their house.
Come on, put it this way. I'm working. For real. Look. It's a spider. Cool. It's red and blue, just like.
And the show used to clips from the 90s cartoons over a decade old at this point instead of the movies. Guess it's a licensing issue. In 2013, Hugh Jackman revealed that there were actually plans back in the day for Wolverine to cameo in the first Spider-Man film. Apparently, the cameo was going to be so minor that it could have just been Wolverine walking in the background of a shot. Hugh Jackman even showed up to New York to film the scene, but never did because they couldn't find the Wolverine costume. No, really, the reason why the X-Men Spider-Man Cinematic Universe never happened was because they couldn't find the Wolverine costume. First appeared in Peter Parker's Spider-Man issue 23 in 2000. Typeface is a rather strange villain. Growing to hate life while he's laid off from his Smith job, he writes a giant R on his forehead that stands for Retribution, begins vandalizing the city. He even used giant letters as weapons and defeated Spider-Man in combat. He would then replace the R on his forehead with an A for Annihilation, thus becoming Typeface. However, after remembering his brother's final words, he had a change of heart to become a superhero, and even battled like Captain America's side during Civil War. Bob was killed by Venom during the final battle, until he was retconned into surviving in Spider-Man Deadpool issue 12 in 2016. No, I'm not talking about this. Why would you think I'm talking about? No, you can't show that on YouTube. Get that out of here. Though you wouldn't be surprised that this isn't the first time people have shipped Spider-Man and Captain Marvel. In fact, Marvel himself does. In Miss Marvel issue 34 in 2009, Peter asks Carol Danvers out on a date, and they actually do. In Miss Marvel issue 47, they actually go on a date, and it even ends on a really nice note. So yeah, they dated for a bit. Hell, the Spider-Man one-shot Siege, Venom briefly takes control of Captain Marvel, and then tells Spider-Man that she might have feelings for him. So yeah, they actually dated for a bit. Though the whole thing didn't last very long. Doesn't stop shippers though. There's actually been quite a few continuities in which Uncle Ben begins fighting crime, with or without Peter. First appearing in Amazing Spider-Man issue 13, 2015, this Uncle Ben is actually his universe's Spider-Man, who has powers to become with Peter to a science demonstration, where he's been with a spider. Sadly, his identity was discovered, and the villain Emerald Elf murdered Aunt May and Peter, causing Ben to retire, though he did take up the mantle once again to help battle the Inheritors in Spider-Verse event. But then there's the Avengers, which appeared in Secret Wars 2, issue 1 in 2015 as a joke team consisting of Uncle Ben versions of all the Avengers. And finally, in What If issue 23 in 1980, Aunt May becomes Spider-Man and tells Peter and Ben about it. Afterwards, both Uncle Ben and Peter decide to help May stop crime, Ben Parker being equipped with his own web shooters. Spider-Man and the Incredible Hulk was a canceled TV film in the 80s that would have had the cast of the 70s Spider-Man series cross over with the cast of the Incredible Hulk. Bill Bixby was hired to direct, but was ultimately canceled despite everyone being on board with the project. In 1985, Marvel gave the rights to a Spider-Man film to Canon Films. The book would revert back to Marvel if the film wasn't made by 1990. So what was the plot they had? Well, they hired Leslie Stevens to write the story for Spider-Man. That was about Peter Parker becoming a human tarantula. Giant, hairy, suicidal ape-armed monster that battled the new master race of mutants kept in a basement laboratory. Yeah, this didn't really go over well. It was actually based on a misunderstanding of the character, and a future version of the story would later have Spider-Man battling Doc Ock. Though in this version, Peter would become Spider-Man in his college years, and Doc Ock would be going after some like anti-grounding technology. And so this is the script they went with. Then they had another problem: the budgets. 15 million, 20 million, to just under 10 million. The company just couldn't agree on the full budgets. But they were able to push their ownership of Spider-Man up until 1992. And so, when the production started summer 1989, they tried to raise production funds by selling the unmade film's television rights. And ultimately, the film never happened. Spider-Man J was a short-lived Spider-Man manga released from 2004 to 2005 that ran in the children's magazine Comic Papa. The story is set in the year 2000X, and 15-year-old Joe MNO gains spider powers in order to stop Murgaki from stealing the fossil of the insect king. Yeah, it's not very faithful to the source material. This comic had an entirely new cast of characters like Nami Ameno, Shu Young Trians, Megumi, Shu's tomboy girlfriend, Pensaku, a huge fan of Spider-Man J called Pom Pom, and Makoto, who was a goofy cow. Strangely enough, though, when this was translated to English, every character's name was changed. Shu became Peter Parker, Makoto became Detective Flynn, Mary became Aunt May, Megumi became Mary Jane, and Desu became Harold Osborn. This manga also includes versions of the Fantastic Four, Doctor Doom, Blade, and Electro. And Shu himself even later appeared in the Spider-Verse event. I hope you now appreciate knowing what Spider-Man J is, because I sure did not like saying all the Japanese names. I'm sorry, I wish you know. I'm horrible with names in English, Spanish, Japanese, German, really any language. I don't know how to speak. Spider-Man's wedding was a live performance at Shea Stadium in New York City in 1987. Had Stan Lee marry Spider-Man to Mary Jane. 45,000 Spider-Man fans showed up to watch the event. Or to watch the New York Mets play right afterwards, but hey, they were there. And so was Hulk, Captain America, Iceman, Firestar, and Dr. Doom and Green Goblin. Well, it's nice to see that the Goblin and Doom saw the differences with Spider-Man to show up at his wedding. Amazing Spider-Man issue 36 2001 features Spider-Man witnessing the terror attacks on September 11, 2001. He along with Wolverine, Thing, Storm, Hawkeye, Captain America, Daredevil, Mr. Fantastic, Scarlet Witch, Thor, Vision, and Cyclops all went in to save people from the ruins, while Kingpin, Magneto, and Dr. Doom watch on in sadness. Why would Magneto give a shit with this? Magneto literally wants to wipe out humanity. Why would... whatever, but regardless, it's a pretty important comic. That's one of the few hard comics that deals directly with modern events. Because of its, Al-Qaeda has a page in the Marvel Wiki where it says Wolverine thought Al-Qaeda was responsible for a vampire suicide bombing the flag. Identity Crisis is an 8-issue event in 1998 in which Spider-Man is framed up Norman Osborn for the murder of a random crook. To avoid the police going after him, Peter decides to stop being Spider-Man for the time being and becomes a series of other heroes and villains while looking for his name. There's the Hornet and Prodigy, 2 heroes, and Dusk and Ricochet, 2 criminals. Using these fake criminal disguises, he was able to discover more information behind the framing, including his name to the police. These temporary identities would later on be unlockable costumes in Edge of Time, and Hornet and Ricochet would return and he made inspired to the video games costumes. In the late 90s, David Fincher pitched his idea for a Spider-Man film to Sony. This Spider-Man film wouldn't have been an origin story, it would have shown it in the first 10 minutes. This scene was described by Fincher as operatic and like a music video. The villain of the film would be Green Goblin, and the film would directly adapt Gwen Stacy's death. Yeah, he just wanted to jump straight into it. Basically, his pitch was rejected because his take on Spider-Man was far too different from what Sony wanted at the time. They wanted a campier and colorful film that Sam Raimi almost really graded. Not this. In fact, Fincher's flat out said he can't do a campier Spider-Man. In an interview with IO9, he said, "My version of Spider-Man could be is very different from what Sam Raimi did or what Sam wanted to do. I think the reason he directed that movie was because he wanted to do the Marvel comic book superhero. I was never interested in the Genesis story. I couldn't get past the guy getting bit by a red blue spider. It was just a problem. It was not something that I felt I could do straight face. I wanted to serve Gwen Stacy and the Green Goblin, and I wanted to kill Gwen Stacy." Maximum Carnage was a haunted house featured in 2002's Halloween Horror Nights Island of Fear, which is an event at Universal Studios Orlando. The attraction showed a bunch of dead superheroes like Spider-Man, and the attraction itself was about what if Marvel superheroes took over the world. Though the haunted house mostly focused on Carnage, other Marvel characters included Scream, Mephisto, Zorn, Punisher, Electro, and the classic Spider-Man villain, Guy wearing coveralls with a gun. Sadly, the event only lasted in 2002, and another Marvel attraction would never happen, as Marvel were pretty pissed off with Universal, because once they found out about the dead superheroes, they thought if kids saw them, they'd think that they're dead in real life, so they'd stop buying the comics. That's not the kids are that dumb. So did you know before Venom became Agent Venom, he had actually been an agent of the U.S. government before? Well, starting at Venom on Trial Issue 3 in 1987, Venom was hired by the U.S. government to be a special operations counter-terrorist agent. Though they didn't really trust him, so they did a dark night and surgically implanted a bomb into his chest to make sure he didn't fuck around. And so Venom was sent on multiple missions by the U.S. government. At the time, he used to take on a plane and hijacked by neo-fascists. One of the time, he sent to intimidate J. Jonah Jameson. Though he kind of fucked up that one, but he thought the government was asking to kill him, not intimidate. There was also a time where he was sent to protect a South American former dictator who traveled to the U.S. to make a speech about human rights in a random church in the Bronx. He makes a ghostwriter in that story. Pretty crazy. Also, the comic teaches the story as when a terrorist seized a war against South American president of Bronx Church, the U.S. government sent Venom in to kick booty. Eventually, though, Venom does have the bomb surgically removed and escapes the government to become a villain again. Oh well, he returns to be an agent later on, so no hard feelings, I guess. Co-published by the American Dental Association, released in 2005, Heroes vs. Black features Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four convincing things to a dentist. Once they arrive there, they're attacked by Professor Black, who's planning to kidnap dentists so that children will never learn about proper tooth care. Eventually, they defeat the foul breath villain, and they all get their teeth checked out. I know there's no chance of it, but man, I hope Professor Black shows up in Spider-Verse 2 somehow. In the 1987 one-shot Spider-Man vs. Wolverine, written by Jim Owsley, Wolverine's friend Charlemagne was wanted by the KGB, as she was a secret agent that worked for the Brave Fleet, and she knows too much. Knowing there was absolutely nowhere she could go to hide, she wanted Wolverine to give her a quick death, instead of being captured and tortured to death. So Wolverine reluctantly agreed to do it, but just as he's about to give her the sweet release of death, Spider-Man stepped in to stop it, because he thought Wolverine was just trying to murder her. This, of course, led to a fight between the two heroes, which led to her attacking Spider-Man, knowing that he would think it was Wolverine who was attacking him. And so she jumped at him, causing Spider-Man to turn around him, and smashed her face in, switching her, thinking it was Wolverine. Handle the blow. And thus, Spider-Man straight up punched her to death. Granted, she did it to kill herself, but still, he did it. This still haunts me to this very day, as I mean, it should. It's one of the most tragic moments in all of Spider-Man's history, and sad nobody ever really talks about it.
Grab a friend and stick around. We'll be right back to Spider-Man on Disney XD. It's nice to be red somebody I should see. I would.
Really? Pete's more like a brother. Roommate.
So you're making an argument for someone who takes the experience inside of other classes every day makes him away. Swing into adventure. Now back to Spider-Man, right here on Disney XD.
The game of the Shadows features a ton of other Marvel heroes besides just Spider-Man, like Moon Knight, Cage, Black Widow, and Wolverine. Just recently, it was smooth that Iron Man was originally going to be in the game as well. In April of this year, released a concept art for the Shadows and Discover that features this really horrible-looking Iron Man design. It was originally thought this was for Spider-Man 3, the video game, but it makes way more sense for the Shadows. In the 1984 comics Spider-Man Power Pack Issue 1, Spider-Man told the story of how he was almost touched in the world. He was Steve Westcott, aka Skip, was an older boy who played the key to his house when he was a kid, where he showed his window magazines and then tried to, Peter then told him that in a May of the whole situation, and Skip was arrested for something. They never actually explained that. Nancy Allen, the person who wrote the story, actually has admitted that she deeply regrets this story. Hey,
Yes. What do you need? I thought you might have room for one more. Hey, man, get out of here. Not for me. Okay, sure, man. Whatever you say. Man, talk about crazy. That's weird.
In Venom Silent Boss, when the comics were Venom works with the government that I mentioned last year, Venom creates his own theme song that goes Venom Man, friendly symbiote, Venom Man, spins web, any size, catches thieves, makes them die. It's not very catchy, and it didn't catch on, thankfully. Truthfully, it shouldn't be in this Facebook, but I thought it was funny. We're spearing Edge of Spider-Verse issue 5 in 2014. Everyone knows about Penny Parker now, that she was in Into the Spider-Verse. What many don't actually know is her mech looks very different in the comics. In fact, her comic mech is directly inspired by the Avas for the Evangelion franchise. How her entire world is inspired by Evangelion. You can even see the cast of Evangelion in the comic, or, characters who are inspired by them that aren't really them. You get what I mean. The point is, Penny Parker is just one giant Evangelion reference. First appearing in What If Punisher issue 1 in 2018, Peter Parker murdered the man who killed Uncle Ben, leading to him becoming a violent vigilante who used guns to kill criminals. He even took the gun that was used to kill Ben and began using it for himself as a reminder of what crimes took from him. In this universe, he became Spider Punisher and gunned down basically the entire 66, and eventually bring him out. However, he eventually retired from being Spider Punisher after saving Gwen Stacy. First appeared in Peter Parker the Spectacular Spider-Man issue 24 in 1978, Antoine Delsoin was the lead singer of band Mercy Killers and began stealing from nightclub safes. He did this by using his equipment to hypnotize people, and eventually they began hypnotizing the audience so that they'd hand over their money. As for his fighting abilities, they're not very great. So when Spider-Man showed up, it was a pretty easy fight, as all Spider-Man had to do was remove Hypno Hustler's headphones, which allowed him to be hypnotized as well. He's appeared occasionally since the original appearance, though almost never as a serious character. It's just really a joke reference to how silly some of Spider-Man's villains used to be. Strangely though, he's actually appeared in other continuities, like in House of M, and Spider-Man Reign of all things, where, just like everyone else in that comic, he's overly depressed and gets brutally murdered. In this universe, he's actually the leader of a cult, and uses hypnotic guitar to gain followers. In Light with Big Wheel, he's even appeared in some video games, like the PS2 version of The Shadows, not to confuse the extremely obscure Marvel miniseries of the same name. The true believers were a cult of Korean ninjas who were responsible for bringing Doc Ock back from the dead. Yeah, kind of weird. It's like if Norman Osborn died and the guy Greek pirates can resurrect him. Just a weird clash of things. Anyways, first appearing in Amazing Spider-Man issue 421 in 1997, they were originally part of the Hand, but they felt that they were heretics. When they did finally resurrect Doc Ock in Amazing Spider-Man issue 427, a pretty big chunk of them were killed, which led to the group disbanding shortly after. Which is why these characters have just kind of disappeared from the Marvel Universe altogether. Spider-Man the Zoids, the comic series, ran from 1986 to 1987. It was an anthology series that tied in with the Zoids toy franchise going on at the same time. This was a new franchise that was published by Marvel UK. It was decided that reprint of the Spider-Man Comics Weekly would be included in each issue, so we have day readers to buy the comic. Side note, Grant Morrison of All-Star Superman, Final Crisis, Doom Patrol, and JLA fame actually worked on the series events. It's actually one of his earliest works. First appearing in What If Spider-Man vs. Wolverine in 2008, this story is actually a spiritual sequel to the story in which Spider-Man kills Cheryl May that I mentioned in last year. In this universe, after accidentally killing her, Peter doesn't go home. Instead, he joins Wolverine's mission to rescue her sister as a way of redeeming himself. It's during this mission that Peter loses his belief in the no-killing rule and becomes a Black Ops assassin who's trained by Wolverine to fight and kill. He even meets Mary Jane for Alex, who is Sherman's sister that they went to go rescue at the beginning of the story. He's a master of hand-to-hand combat as a skilled marksman with absolutely no mercy. But that didn't save him from dying during the Spider-Verse event. Side note, his design is actually inspired by an unused piece of concept art from the first Raimi film. Alright, here's another Spider-Man story people don't care for. Trouble, yes, it's this Spider-Man story, stay with me. It's a miniseries released in 2003-2004, written by Mark Miller. It tells the story of a 17-year-old girl named May hanging out at a resort during summer vacation. She meets up with her friend Mary and their friends Richard and Ben. They hang out, have a nice time, and then May ends up making Ben, while Richard then begins to cheat on Mary with May. Not very cool, May. That's a pretty fucked up thing to do. This leads her to getting pregnant, with everyone thinking Ben's the father, but no, he's actually sterile. So it's revealed that Richard got her pregnant. May decides then not to get an abortion and starts thinking about killing herself when she runs away from home. May then decides to give the baby to Mary so May won't have to deal with her parents. When May gives birth to the baby, she names it Peter. So I know what you're thinking. So this is an alternate universe in which May is Peter's mother and she actually banged Peter's dad who's married to the woman who adopts Peter, or Uncle Ben just kind of sits there going, what the fuck is happening? Yeah, this comic was really disliked by people for just its very existence, which I honestly get. So this one's pretty simple. Green Goblin's costume in the first Raimi film actually had green painted Nike Air flight posits. In 2006, there was a commercial that included a bunch of Marvel superheroes, including Spider-Man, who explains to a woman that if her Visa card is stolen or lost, you're not liable for fraudulent charges.
Someone stole my Visa check card.
Hey, my lips. If your Visa check card's lost or stolen, you're not liable for fraudulent charges.
All that money to put back in your checking account. Jeez. Visa check card is super safe.
Dear underdog, never mind.
God love Captain America's classic rising from the ground like he's Paragon tactic. Also, Captain America commits fraud. What the fuck's outside with fake names? Written by John Bryan, released from 1998 to 1999, Spider-Man Chapter 1 modernized Spider-Man origin. And by modernize, I mean retell the exact same stories, but make a couple of changes here and there. Yeah, this 13-issue series actually just adapted early Spider-Man comics, like Amazing Fantasy issue 15, Amazing Spider-Man Annual 1, and Amazing Spider-Man 16. It also was a continuity headache at the time, as the series was released right around the same time as Untold Tales of Spider-Man. That series told stories set in between early Spider-Man issues that we didn't see, and was canon to the mainstream timeline. But Chapter 1 wasn't, and it also went over the earliest Spider-Man, so readers were left confused as to what's canon, what's not canon. Overall, Chapter 1 has been quickly forgotten at the time, and it's only last legacy were two other stories set in the same continuity: Hulk Chapter 1 and Marvel The Lost Generation. Before 9/11, there was a pretty famous teaser of the first Raimi Spider-Man film, in which Spider-Man captures some criminals escaping in a helicopter between the Twin Towers. Now, some things were seen from the film, but I doubt it, as it seems to have just made marketing. Regardless, this teaser will be pulled from advertising soon after the attack on the World Trade Center in 2001. That and a poster of Spider-Man where you can see the reflection of the Twin Towers in his eyes was also censored. Not only that, but in the video game Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro, the entire final battle was changed to avoid resembling the Twin Towers. Though you can actually find the Green Eye logo in the game online. And finally, in the 2002 Spider-Man movie tie-in game, the Twin Towers were edited from the game. but they remain the game's cutscenes. And finally, one last note, in a case of reverse censorship, I don't know what people call it, the World Trade Center was actually edited into Spider-Man 2. So, like, did 9/11 happen in the Raimiverse? Just not in 2001? Spider-Man Doc Ock's Revenge, the indoor spinning roller coaster featured in IMG Worlds of Adventures in Dubai. Even though it opened up in 2016, it's become kind of obscure compared to other theme park attractions relating to Spider-Man. Just like the first three Raimi Spider-Man films and the Tasman films that came after, there was a game plan for the fourth Spider-Man film, and in the late 2010s, that canceled game was found. Well, the prototype build of it was discovered on a Wii developer kit. It was made by Radical Entertainment, and a former employee of theirs would later leak images of an updated version of this game that most likely was just months before it was canceled. But don't worry, you can actually play Spider-Man 4 the video game right now. Kind of squint and weren't expecting Spider-Man to show up. You see, instead of throwing the entire game out, after the game was canceled, it was turned into Prototype 2. Spider-Man 2 Activity Center was developed by a lot of people. This was an interactive experience created for a much younger demographic that couldn't play the PS2 or PC build of Spider-Man 2. It featured 7 different activities in printable movie graphics, and I kind of want to buy it just so that I can say I own the most obscure Spider-Man game. But like, is this really worth $9? Who knows? Maybe if I do buy it, would you guys be interested if I bought it? Would you guys watch a fucking exploration video of it? I don't know. Maybe I'll do it. It's like $9. Spider-Man was a fan comic by Jane Snoke, and yes, it is what if Spider-Man was drafted into the Vietnam War, or really enlisted, but you get what I mean. Going back to 2011, there's only roughly 5 pages created for the comic, but they're all really fucking good looking. I'd honestly pay to the full thing completed, but I don't think we're going to. You see, he actually pitched this comic to Marvel as a what-if story, but they rejected it, so the chances of us seeing more of this comic are pretty slim to none. Spider-Man Fairy Tales is the second of a 3-part series of miniseries about Marvel characters and fairy tale scenarios. The 4 Spider-Man stories released in 2007 go over the Red Riding Hood, the legend of Koike Hensei, a gender-reverse Cinderella, and a Japanese ghost story. The medieval Spider-Man from the Cinderella story would actually later be used in Spider-Verse for events. Only didn't die. Appearing only in one issue 76 in 1995, this Peter Parker has never been Maria from Spider. Instead, Flash Thompson did. He went on to bully Peter into making his gear and eventually become the criminal, the Spider, after revealing to Peter that he wasn't going to be a hero, but a criminal. So he began to rob a bunch of places, causing Peter to ask Doc Ock for help. And so, with tech given to him by Doc Ock, Peter became Spider-Man and went after the Spider, eventually defeating him and having the Fantastic Four remove Flash's powers. So in Spider-Verse Volume 3, Issue 2, released in 2018, another universe Carnage latched on Aunt May, who in turn accepted him, and willingly became Carnage. Afterwards, she decided to travel the multiverse, and her universe is Peter Parker, Ben, and Anomalies, from the Spider-Man multiverse, to murder all their alternate universe counterparts, because they had discovered the multiverse and decided that there was no free will. Their crusade didn't last very long, however, as they were quickly defeated and never appeared again. The Revenge of Shinobi is a 1989 video game created by Sega. It's a side-scrolling platform that includes Batman, Spider-Man, Godzilla, Sylvester Stallone, and Terminator as enemies. Yeah, it's kind of wild. The game's director, Noriyuki Oba, admitted that he lacked creativity and made rough sketches of characters based on what he had seen at the time. He thought that the character designer would modify those so they weren't, copyright characters. He did not. As a result, the original release version of the game had all of these guys as enemies. However, in the re-releases, all the copyrighted enemies were taken out, except Spider-Man. You see, because Sega had the rights to Spider-Man because of the game Amazing Spider-Man vs. the Kingpin, technically the character could appear in the game. In the original game, when Spider-Man was defeated, he turned to Batman. However, in re-releases, he still remains Spider-Man. However, in the most recent re-releases of the game, he's been completely removed altogether, alongside Godzilla, Batman, etc. Discussed at great length with the YouTuber Comic Drake, the Spider-Man 3 sushi roll that everyone online thought was some kind of promotional sushi roll with Marvel or Sony was not actually a promotional roll. Turns out it's just an evolution from the standard spider roll. Comic Drake has 2 theories as to why there's so many Spider-Man 3 rolls across the United States, but I'll leave that to him to explain. First appearing in Amazing Spider-Man issue 8, 1964, the limited brain as a robot with the ability to solve any problem. Two criminals then try to steal the little brain so they can sell it. But in the process of trying to steal it, they accidentally cause it to malfunction, causing the robot to go on a rampage throughout Midtown High School. Spider-Man would then show up and bring battle with it, destroying its control panel. Weirdly enough, though, the living brain will return several different times over the next few decades. First in was Spider-Man in issue 35 in 1988, when Steve Penny modified the robot and used it to attack a kid who was bullying him. Spider-Man then defeated both the kid and the living brain once again, but then was used to rob some places in Peter Parker's Spider-Man issue 20 in 2000. It would even become a member of the Sinister Six in Superior Spider-Man issue 1 in 2013, and then was recruited into Parker Industries and became an ally of Spider-Man. The living brain has very little personality, if any personality at all, but keeps reappearing in various ways over the years. At this point, he may turn up next as an adventurer, or a member of the X-Men. The Spider-Man Safety series is a line of direct-to-video PSAs in the early 90s that were released on VHS tapes given to schools. Sadly, only one of the 4 PSAs have ever been found, titled Don't Hide Abuse, which is about Spider-Man just kinda not doing anything while a bunch of kids out trying to help their friend stop her abusive father. I mean, he tells them to, talk to an adult, but, I mean, dude, you're Spider-Man, you can stop this in a millisecond. As for the other 3, we do actually know their names. These are Smart Kids Play It Safe, What to Do About Drugs, and Where Do You Go for Help? In Amazing Spider-Man issue 439, 1998, the story takes place in the year 2998 AD. In the story, 2 archaeologists named Laura and Zach dig through the ruins of Manhattan when they eventually come across Spider-Man's web shooters. The archaeologists would then discuss and research Spider-Man for the next few days, and discover that these were the web shooters used by the original Spider-Man in his final battle. They would also confirm that there have been a ton of Spider-Man successors in the 1,000 years since Spider-Man's death. They even say that some consider Mary Jane the first lady of the heroic age. The story ends with the pair discovering the blood of the web shooters is actually Spider-Man's, and Zack plans to clone Spider-Man for a new millennium. It's a very strange story, but these 2 would never actually reappear again, so there's never any follow-up to that cloning business. Hell, it was even retconned that the 2098 events of the story took place in another timeline called Earth 9805. So these guys don't even get into the mainline timeline anymore.
A special one-hour world premiere of the spectacular Spider-Man.
Spider sense is tingling. Time to start blasting with the Spider-Man Jewel-Free Megablast Web Shooter and Line of Mass Mule Spider Sense will take its returns on construction. Frameworks instead of just one. Shooting 3 screens of at the same time. It's the returns on Spider-Man and the Spider-Man. Spider's the Spider-Man. Constant trailers. Constant Order 2. Megablast Web Shooter is all of you. Spider-Man Megablast Web Shooter. It's a total blast. Spider-Man Megablast Web Shooter. Spider Sense Mask. Everything is here.
Time to swing back into action with the spectacular Spider-Man on Kids Cup Speed.
Hey, this is Tim Tuckers from the Daily View. Here with questions you have about Jonah's theories on Spider-Man. So Jonah's got a theory that perhaps maybe Peter Parker knows something about Spider-Man because he is Spider-Man. From the future. He's the guy who claims to be from 2099 or something. Peter being Spider-Man's already a pretty out there idea, but also from the future, a little too crazy for me. Jonah thinks Spider-Man may have murdered in the States. He's out of anger, saving him countless times. I mean, I guess he wouldn't have to save her anymore if she was dead. There's a bunch of rumors that Jonah created Venom in order to keep Spider-Man some crime. But he denies this, of course. Whenever anyone asks me about this, I just know that he's partially responsible for the Scorpion's creation, not Venom. If you want to believe into that, go right ahead. There's some people who think Spider-Man is the hoax, tourist trap. But Jonah and New York know the truth. They think it's just some kind of China-like stage show trying to get tourists here. Because, when I think of places tourists want to go, it's a city where a guy just as a rhino, a bear, or a walrus just for a day. Actually, wait, there are a few people who would like to go to that place. There's ancient ruins and the ruins of the Mayan Empire that did the event known as Spider-Verse. Who knows? Maybe the Mayans were led by Spider-Man like entity. Of course, all this comes from Jonah. There's absolutely no evidence for any of this, but I get paid at the end of the day, so I don't ask questions. Jonah's got another theory about Gwen Stacy's death. He argues that either Spider-Man killed her, or Spider-Gwen killed her. She claimed she's from another dimension, but what if she came from that dimension, killed this universe's Gwen Stacy, took over her life? Alright, even Jonah thinks this one's a little crazy. I don't know how this theory got out there, but some people think that 2099, Spider-Gwen, that one Spider-Man that sings, that cartoon pig Spider-Man, and every other Spider-Man actually comes from this timeline. That this whole first thing is just some bull crap created by left-wing media. I can assure you, that's probably not true. And that's a wrap. That was probably the longest I've ever spent on an iceberg video, which is strange because start with things like 40 minutes longer than this. I didn't really expect this to be 2 hours long. I thought it'd be like an hour and 30, but once you start adding things, it's like, oh, what if I forget the real thing or the abuse PSA and stuff like that? It's like, oh, let me add real quick, and then it just spirals into something. It is what it is. So yeah, thank you for waiting. Thank you for your patience. I hope you enjoyed the video. This isn't the last superhero comic book iceberg I'm going to do. The MCU iceberg is going to happen. I don't know if I want to make it next. It probably will be next, but I don't know. We'll see. Well, before then, there's this a smaller iceberg. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I won't spoil it. Well, then the MCU one, but you get what I mean. So yeah, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but leave a like, comment, and subscribe. That felt weird to say. Oh well. I guess I have to do that at this point. It's not like it's kind of like the thing every YouTuber has to do. So
Big Chungus is a meme on Reddit. It's about a giant Bugs Bunny eating giant old carrots.
who am I? You sure you want to know? The story of this iceberg is not for the faint of heart. If somebody said it was a happy little tale, if somebody told you it was just an average, ordinary iceberg, not a care in the world, somebody lied. But let me assure you, this, like any iceberg worth explaining, is all about a girl. Wait, no, it's actually about Spider-Man. I scratch all that. With the announcement of the second MCU Spider-Man trilogy, Insomniac's Spider-Man 2, Across the Spider-Verse Part 1 and Part 2, and Spider-Man Freshman Year, it's a pretty great time to be a Spider-Man fan. Also, since the Spider-Man iceberg is easily the most popular video I've ever created and will never be topped, why not do another one? So here I am again to talk about Spider-Man content, weird storylines, Easter eggs, alternate versions of Spider-Man, weird villains, trivia, references, etc. Let's begin.
Holy shit, it's Spider-Man!
Spider-Side. First appearing in Amazing Spider-Man issue 399 in January 1995, Spider-Side is yet another clone of Peter Parker that originated from the Clone Saga. Originally working for Jackal, Spider-Side is an interesting clone, as he hasn't really done much in like 20 years. And he also has the power to shapeshift and stretch his body, so it's a rather unique Spider-Man clone. He was given these powers by Jackal as a way of giving Spider-Side the advantage against the real Spider-Man. Because, like I mentioned, originally Spider-Side worked for Jackal, so when he came face to face with the real Peter Parker, along with two other clones, Kane and Ben, and Mary Jane, his programming kicked in and he tried to kill them all. But he failed and was killed, only then to be resurrected and work with Jackal to murder 2,600 people via bioterrorism. And shortly after this, he was placed into a status chamber to prevent him from dying after turning into goop. Yeah, he fell off the building, turned into goop, and then was put into a status chamber. I'm not busy downplaying this for comedic effect, but he is goop at this point, right? And that was in Spider-Man Maximum Clone Age Omega, released in July 1995. And since then, he hasn't done anything of note in the past 20 plus years. That is until I started writing this iceberg. Yeah, out of nowhere, Ben Reilly's Spider-Man issue 3, released in March 2022, Spider-Side returned as the twist villain of that comic run. What are the odds I start working on the second Spider-Man iceberg, talk about Spider-Side, and then suddenly he shows back up after like 20 years doing nothing? Insane coincidence. Spider-Cat. Despite only appearing in 2 issues, first of which being Spider Island, I Love New York City, released in September 2011, Spider-Cat has become a well-known Spider-Man variation. In his universe, he was just a simple house cat to a group of gamers. He'd often battle a venom pigeon in his dreams, and that's kind of it. Like, he's just a cat with Spider-Man's powers that appears in, like, 2 comics. The second of which was Amazing Spider-Man issue 7, released in October 2014 as part of the Spider-Verse event, only for him to be almost immediately murdered by the villains of the story, having his life essence removed from his body. So, Spider-Cat's dead. But hey, at least the Insomniac Spider-Cat's okay. Iguana. Poor Iguana. First appearing in Peter Parker the Spectacular Spider-Man issue 32 in April of 1979, Iguana is the product of Kurt Connors trying to cure a blister condition. Kurt Connors, doing something very bad, tested the cure on an animal, an iguana in fact, and because this is a comic book, the iguana mutated into a monster with the memories of Kurt Connor, which caused him to understandably freak out in battle with Spider-Man. During this encounter, Iguana had his powers removed, and he went back to being a normal iguana. And that is until like 20 years later when he returned with no explanation in the Central Park Zoo, leading a group of crocodiles. Since then, he became a very minor recurring villain, until eventually in Amazing Spider-Man issue 18 in March 2019, he was killed off. Iguana is a very forgotten villain that's normally just seen as one of the lizard was like, but in reality, Iguana actually has some unique powers. For example, he can actually hypnotize humans and communicate with normal reptiles. Wait, Lizard can do that? I'm going to be real with you, I don't remember a single instance of this, but I'll take the Wiki's word on this. Despite his rare appearances and unpopularity, Iguana has appeared in 2 different video games, the mobile game Spider-Man Unlimited, and the Amazing Spider-Man 2, the video game, where he was once again a creation of Kurt Connors. In this universe, he battled Spider-Man and, was eventually killed by Grim the Hunter after Spider-Man beats him in a fight. Into the Gwen-verse. So there's the Spider-Verse and the Venom-verse. Starting in March of this year, 2022, a new verse storyline was created called Gwen-verse. In this story, she travels through the multiverse meeting various different Gwens, like Iron Gwen, Captain America Gwen, Thor Gwen, Gwen Arene, Nightbird, which is like a Batgirl homage, and probably Gwen will show up eventually, I don't know. Yeah, here's the thing. This is kind of hard for me to talk about because I'm writing this entry on March 18th, 2022, and the second issue of Gwenverse doesn't come out until April 20th, 2022. So I don't really know how many Gwen variations are going to show up. So I can't really do like the montage of variants like I did in the last video for Spider-Verse and Venomverse. Except I actually can because in celebration for Gwenverse, all throughout February 2022, Marvel released covers for various different comics that featured new variations of Gwen, like Gwen Grey, Phoenix Gwen, Gwen Seek, Gwen Frost, Gwenmo, Rogue Gwen, Captain Gwendolyn, Gwenbit, Gwenclops, Gwenverine, again, Polaris, the Mistress of Gwenetism, etc. And before some comments, yes, I know that Gwenverine first appeared in the 2015 Secret Wars. Spider-Man and Elsa. Yeah, we're talking about Elsa Gates. In 2017, people became aware of a growing trend on YouTube, where a series of strange YouTube videos made for children that would star copyrighted characters, most notably Elsa from Frozen and Spider-Man, though characters like Captain America, Venom, Hulk, Batman, Joker, etc. were often used as well. These videos, while advertised for kids, were usually extremely inappropriate for children, and featured things like sexually suggestive stuff, swearing, drug use, alcohol use, a lot of needles. I mean a ton of needles, they were obsessed with that. Surgery, torture, abuse, and a lot, and I mean a lot of fetishes. While normally either live-action skits made up by grown adults in Party City costumes, or crude animations, sometimes they actually involve actual children, which is very bad. While there still is Spider-Man and Elsa content on YouTube, it's been drastically reduced after YouTube made it their... Why would you assume that there's a lake? Why would they call it the lake? Mission to mass delete these channels for breaking several site guidelines. One final thing to note about these videos is that they were made exclusively for profit, and they made a lot of that, with millions of views on each video, filled to the brim with ads. So there's a good chance most of these channels got away with a lot of money. Scorpion pretends to be Spider-Man. What many people forget is that Scorpion in the mainline 616 universe actually has taken up the mantle of Spider-Man before. In fact, he actually posed as Spider-Man with the help of Venom as part of the Dark Avengers. This was part of the, well, Dark Avengers storyline, where Norman Osborn created a team called, the Dark Avengers, a new team of Avengers who were directly sponsored by the U.S. government. And so Norman took a bunch of criminals like Scorpion and gave them new jobs as Avengers. This is also where Norman Osborn becoming Iron Patriot comes from. During his time as Spider-Man, Scorpion would do the normal Avengers stuff like fighting bad guys, good guys, murdering criminals, murdering strippers, and fighting J. Jonah Jameson for the murder, etc. You know, the classic Avengers stuff. Eventually, his run as Spider-Man would come to an end, when he ordered the Dark Avengers to attack Asgard, and, well, while there, the real Spider-Man would be Venom from Scorpion. This would be the last time, though, that Scorpion would fuse with a Venom symbiote. He would later make a deal with the U.S. government to be taken out of prison with their symbiote task force, where he fused with one of Venom's new kids. This wouldn't really last long, though, as he was quickly defeated by Spider-Man. So recently, in Venom issue 28, released in September 2020, Scorpion fused with yet another symbiote, one from a different dimension, and became Scorpion. He didn't have a new name, he was just Scorpion, but now he's like a green tentacle monster. So this didn't last very long, and the symbiote was killed just an issue later. Yes, Scorpion's been using a lot of symbiotes for a really long time. I wonder if we'll actually see this in the MCU. Future Foundation. So you might recognize the Future Foundation suit from a variety of different video games, like Marvel Avengers Alliance, Fortnite, Spider-Man PS4, Avengers, kinda, the Amazing Spider-Man game, kinda, Edge of Time, Lego Marvel Superheroes, etc. So what's the origins of the suit? Well, as the name suggests, it's the outfit Peter wore while working as part of the Future Foundation, a team led by Reed Richards. Now, Peter only joined the Future Foundation because Human Torch had put it in his will that he wanted Peter to join. Oh yeah, he died for a bit, so, but don't worry, Human Torch is back. Because it's comics, nobody actually dies. Unless you're Goliath, because he still hasn't come back. I mean, I'm not saying, bring him back, I'm just saying that, damn, he's like the one hero that stays dead, I guess. Anyways, the Future Foundation was created by Reed because he wanted to mold a team of young heroes as they mature, so that they can come up with solutions to the world's problems. As for the suit Peter wore, it was made out of unstable molecules that allowed his suit to repair itself and never get dirty. Pretty handy when you're wearing a white suit. Anyways, he wouldn't work with the Future Foundation permanently, as he'd eventually leave the group off panel. Yeah, he just kind of stopped showing up the missions, so I guess he just dipped. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. In JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 6, Stone Ocean, you can very briefly see Sam Raimi's Spider-Man in the chapter Bohemian Rhapsody Part 4, when some dude tries to shake Spider-Man's hand. This is because the author and creator of JoJo, Araki, is a pretty big fan of Western media. When this chapter is eventually adapted into the anime, I highly doubt this will be included. And if it is, it'll probably be like a non-copyrighted character. Ashley Barton. Ashley Barton, aka Spider-Girl, aka Spider-Woman, aka Spider-Bitch. No, I'm not making that last one up. That's an official title she held. Is the granddaughter of Spider-Man and the daughter of Hawkeye. So Peter's daughter married and had a kid with Hawkeye. Like Hawkeye knew Spider-Man when he was like a teen. It's kind of weird. This isn't just any Hawkeye. This is Old Man Hawkeye from the Old Man Loki universe. A post-apocalyptic universe where most of the world's heroes are dead, and the United States is ran by the supervillains. Or in Hulk's case, having kids with his cousin. Hulk, I get that She-Hulk is hot, but man, that's illegal. You can't do that. Anyways, Ashley has all the Spider-Man powers you'd expect, like wall crawling and super strength. But she's missing one crucial power. She doesn't have spider sense, which is kind of one of the biggest spider powers. But that doesn't stop her from kicking ass as she decapitates the new Kingpin. Yeah, she was at war with him for a bit as he ruled over the land that she, along with Daredevil and Punisher, lived at. So the three of them then teamed up and, well, failed to defeat him originally, which resulted in Daredevil and Punisher being fed to dinosaurs. But Old Man Hawkeye ended up saving Ashley, dying in the process. This allowed her to get revenge on her dead, dino-food friends, and, yeah, so she decapitated Kingpin. Thankfully for Miss Barton, she's been able to leave her universe from time to time, as she showed up in both Spider-Verse and Spider-Geddon. There's also been other variations of her, like in Venomverse or in another Old Man Logan style universe. That's not the original Old Man Logan universe, it's a different one, but looks like the same. Hashtag TASM3. After No Way Home was released, fans began pouring on the Twitter, Reddit, and YouTube, asking for Sony to make another Amazing Spider-Man film starring Andrew Garfield due to his performance in the film. Seemingly in response to this demand, Sony responded on Twitter saying, "Yes, we've seen the hashtag. No, we don't decide which movies get made. We're just the social team. So will the Amazing Spider-Man 3 happen? No. It's not going to happen. They're more than likely just going to retcon him into the sub-universe, which is not a good idea in my opinion, because see what you want with the Tasman films, but, like, do you guys really want Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man hanging out with Morbius? But hey, who knows? Reliable leakers have said Sony wants to do a movie starring the three Spideys, so I don't know. Iron Cat. In Black Cat issue 11, released in June 2020, Black Cat stole an Iron Man armor and called herself Iron Cat. Tony was not a fan of this though, so he beat the crap out of her and took back the armor. This happened because I guess everybody in the Marvel Universe needs to wear an Iron Man armor at some point. I don't know. Anyways, it was recently revealed that there would be a new Iron Cat limited series written by Jed Mackey. That's due to start releasing in June 2022. As for its plot, all we know is that Iron Cat is back, but this time it's not Black Cat. So she and Iron Man have to team up to figure out who this mysterious new Iron Cat is. No Way Home cameos. Towards the end of No Way Home, when the multiverse begins to rip into the MCU, you can briefly see the silhouettes of many different Spider-Man related characters looking into the universe. All of these characters appear to know that Peter Parker's Spider-Man, so who are they? Well, people claim to see Raven the Hunter, Scorpion, Rhino, Black Cat, Superior Spider-Man, and Mysterio. Rhino, Black Cat, Raven, and Superior Spider-Man I can see. Scorpion just looks like a big scorpion. In fact, I actually thought this was the Loch Ness Monster when I first saw the film, so I looked insane to my friends when I tried to explain to them that Nessie was in No Way Home and that she knows Peter's Spider-Man. Also, I'm not really sold on Mysterio. This could literally be anyone. I can kind of see a cape if I squint, but I don't know. No Way Home deleted scenes. Now that No Way Home is out, we can finally talk about the deleted scenes from the film. But first, being a scene in which Harry Holland, Tom Holland's brother, played a drug dealer who would have been taken out by Spider-Man was cut. This was most likely removed for pacing issues. There was also an entire courtroom scene where Daredevil would have originally been introduced. A scene in which Gordon Stark returned was scrapped. There would be another 4-minute long sequence in which the three Peters hang out. A scene in which Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man jumps on the Goblin's glider for a one-on-one fight was scrapped. My only big complaint with this movie is that Tobey Maguire and Willem Dafoe never speak to each other once. Why did you scrap this? More footage of Peter's life at school after being exposed to Spider-Man was scrapped. And finally, a scene in which Peter, May, Doc Ock, Goblin, Electro, and Sandman stand in an elevator in silence until Sandman breaks the tension and asks, "Who farted?" I'm very happy this was removed. Also, while not a scene, Lizard was originally going to have a massive redesign of this movie to make it more accurate, but ultimately this was scrapped. Though he still did receive a redesign, it's just really, really subtle. There was also supposed to be a fight between Tom Holland's Spider-Man and Green Goblin when Goblin first showed up during the bridge fight. There was also originally intended to be 6 villains in the film, with the 6th villain ultimately being scrapped. Before that villain was scrapped, though, Marvel and Sony toyed around with the idea of the 6th member being either Tassiverse Rhino, Tassiverse Green Goblin, Raimi New Goblin, Venom, or MCU Mysterio. American Chavez was intended to have a role in the film as well, as originally No Way Home was going to release after Multiverse of Madness and be the final installment to the MCU's little multiverse saga they're doing at the moment. Also, before No Way Home was settled on being a multiverse film, plans were in place to have Raven the Hunter be the main villain of the movie, just in case Marvel could get the actors from the Raimi Tassel films back. Some deleted scenes. I forgot to mention the deleted scenes with Sony Universe and Marvel characters in the last Spider-Man, but only Venom 1 was out at the time, so I guess it didn't really miss much. Anyways, for Venom 1, there was a scene in which Venom and Eddie argued with each other in a taxi when driving to the hospital was cut. This scene revealed some details of Eddie's childhood, like how Eddie would steal toys from kids so that he'd be praised for finding them later. There was also a scene where Venom goes on a rampage because he was alerted by a car alarm. And finally, an extended version of Eddie's Talk with Cletus was filmed, where Cletus would mockingly admit to cannibalizing the people he's killed. Before Venom let there be Carnage, Carnage was going to take the form of a demon pope during the final battle, and would even crucify Venom at one point. He'd also give Venom a crown of thorns via his tongue. An extended scene of Venom and Eddie at the beach was cut, where Eddie would tell Venom that he doesn't love him. And finally, a scene in which Eddie evicts Sonny and Cher, Venom's chickens, from his apartment. A scene like this does end up in the movie where he just places them in a park, where they're still back by the end of the film somehow. They just kind of like stayed there. But this version just has him shoo them out, and that's it. So Morbius, that Spider-Man graffiti in the trailers, on the film. The Cosmo Balloon, gone. Morbius jokingly claiming to be Venom, still in the movie, but him revealing that it was a joke was cut. So, like, I guess he just kind of, like, is claiming to be Venom. And finally, every scene with Vulture in the prison was cut. He just kind of, like, shows up to the summer universe, no questions asked, builds his own suit, which I don't think he did in the MCU, so I don't know which way he was able to make this one, and then asks Morbius to help him get revenge on Spider-Man for whatever reasons. What an awful movie. Spider-Man Noir. First appearing in Spider-Man Noir issue 1, February 2009, Spider-Man Noir is a gritty version of Peter Parker living during the Great Depression. He gets his powers from a spider, obviously. But this was a special spider that lived in a spider god idol, which caused Peter to have visions of a spider god, granting him the powers of Spider-Man. This version of the character also carries her own guns, like Thompson or a revolver. And so, yeah, he doesn't actually have an issue with killing villains, or Nazis for that matter, because, yeah, most of the villains he fights are Nazis. This version of the character also has fully Spider-Man outfits. He's him wearing a bulletproof vest and World War I aviator goggles. When he was introduced in the miniseries, he was so popular that a little over a year later, he would be included as a main playable character in Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions, voiced by Christopher Daniel Barnes. You might remember for She's a very popular variation of Spider-Man, who's even served as inspiration for the worst MCU Spider-Man costume. Also, he died. Yeah, in 2018 during Spider-Geddon, issue 1 to be exact, he sacrificed his life. You know what else came out that year? Into the Spider-Verse. And that movie used Spider-Man Noir. It is pretty popular, that film. So, 3 years later, Spider-Man issue 5, released in February 2020, was resurrected. Again, further proving that Goliath is the only comic character that will stay dead. Venom 3. So at the moment, Venom 3 has been 100% confirmed, but due to the massive financial successes of both Venom films, there's a very, very good chance Venom 3 will happen, regardless if the rest of the summer films are cancelled. There's been several different ideas tossed around about what Venom 3 could be about. Obviously, Toxic is being considered for the film, as Let There Be Carnage sets him up. But the film has also been described as a multiverse movie, so maybe a soft Venomverse adaptation? Hell, maybe he'll meet up with Raimi Venom. Director Andy Serkis has also expressed interest in returning for Venom 3, and even using the villain Grendel, a giant symbiote dragon, though he's also said he wants to explore other Raven Providence 2 villains. As for Spider-Man, he probably won't show up. As Serkis has said, there's way more to explore with Venom in future films before officially meeting up with Spider-Man. Also, Rhys Ifans, who played the Lizard in TASM in No Way Home, has recently said he'd love to be in a movie where Venom and Lizard fight.
You lied to me. All that shit you said you never do. You lied to me. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. Oh. Return of the Mac. Once again.
Kingpin, Lizard, Vulture.
Oh my god.
We also had villains like Caveman, Boomer, Igor, Snowman, Red Dog Melvin, Reptilia, Pod, Cowboy, Charles Cameo, The Fly Twins, Dr. Dumpty, Fiddler, Fifth Avenue Phantom, Scarf, Winkler, a robot version of Jesse James, Skymaster, and of course the iconic villain, Shakespeare. This was done to save on the budget. Because the show had a very, very low budget, by the time of the second season, the show was mostly filled with these new villains. simply because in order to use comic characters, the company that made the show had to buy the rights for those characters for each of their appearances. Last Stand. This is a variation of Spider-Man that first appeared in Amazing Spider-Man issue 58 in September of 2003. In this universe, Peter just straight up murders Kraven the Hunter, which leads to him being like, hey, why not I just kill all my bad guys? This led to him being hated by all of his family and friends, even being kicked out of the Avengers. As an old man being hunted down by the police, he was eventually gunned down in a cemetery while visiting on May's grave. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, he doesn't actually have much lore to him, but he's still an extremely popular variation of Spider-Man, mainly because of his outfit, and the idea of an older, grittier Spider-Man. This has led to Last Stand costumes appearing in Spider-Man Unlimited, Spider-Man PS4, and Shattered Dimensions. Miles Morales. First appearing in Ultimate Fallout Issue 4, released in August 2011, Miles Morales is pretty much the second most popular Spider-Man right after the original, even getting his own video game and lead role in the Spider-Verse film series. He originates.
You can't prevent sick days. That's why Kleenex Lotion Tissues moisturize to help prevent skin irritation. For whatever happens next, grab a Kleenex.
From the Ultimate Universe, it became Spider-Man after witnessing Peter Parker die. But don't worry, Ultimate Peter Parker is also well again. Again, why is Goliath the only dude not allowed to return? Weirdly enough, the creation of Miles Morales stems from the 2008 U.S. presidential election, when Marvel's then editor-in-chief at the time, Axel Alonso, said that while they were planning Ultimatum, they realized they were standing on the brink of America electing its first African-American president, and then realized that maybe it was time to take a good look at a Marvel icon. And so Miles was born, and was Spider-Man for most of the Ultimate Universe's run. Miles' powers also differ from Peter's in several different ways. Sure, they both have spider sense, superhuman strength, the ability to climb stuff, etc. But Miles also has the ability to turn invisible, use bioelectric energy threads that come from his fingers, and venom strikes, which are basically supercharged punches of electric energy. As Spider-Man, he's also gathered his own share of villains like Prowler, Cesar, and Ultimatum, who is Earth 616's version of Miles Morales. Yet he's actually from the mainline universe and differs from Miles in several different ways, like having a different origin, different power set, and his best friend from Kingpin. Though I guess it's no longer the main universe of Miles Morales, as at the end of Secret Wars 2015, Miles has been permanently transported into the main timeline.
When he leaps off of rooftops and flips backwards to face the camera before falling into a headfirst dive is just full of the exaggerated swagger of a black teen.
What if Peter Parker kept the symbiote? Starting in April 2021, Spider-Man Spider's Shadow, written by Jim Zdarsky, is a what-if miniseries that tells the story of what if Peter never stopped wearing the symbiote. In this universe, despite Mr. Fantastic telling Peter that it was a parasite that was messing with his brain, Peter was like, well, okay, sure, dude. Whatever you say, man. And this led to some pretty bad things, like Hobgoblin getting his head crushed in by Spider-Man after Hobgoblin burns May alive. Spider-Man then goes on to kill Shocker, Electro, Rhino, Mysterio, Beetle, Scorpion, and Kingpin. Ultimately, it was J. Jonah Jameson that was able to talk Peter out of the symbiotes. Well, that and an explosion Kraven set off, but still. The symbiotes then went on to attack the Baxter Building, and even to control the Fantastic Four for a brief period of time.
Oh
But
man,
thankfully,
I
because
should.
George is literally the perfect symbiote killer,
It's
they
good.
were able to kill it, and Peter turned himself in.
Return of the
But all the
Mac
heroes were like, he was
once
already
again.
so he got off
Oh
and
my
joined the Fantastic
god.
Four. Goblin Nation. First appearing in Superior Spider-Man issue 10, released in May 2013, Goblin Nation was a group of villains led by Norman Osborn, dead set on defeating Spider-Man. And they almost did, as they slaughtered Superior Spider-Man's henchmen, the Spider-Wolves. So Doc Ock Spider-Man, Superior Spider-Man, was beaten up. It was pretty grim, but then Peter was able to get his body back, and, Goblin Nation kind of almost immediately was defeated afterwards, as Peter was able to rally up the Avengers and take down Norman and his nation of goblins. But luckily for the Goblin Nation, a new leader took up the mantle of Goblin King, Yurek. Oh, I should probably also mention, Goblin King was the name of the leader of Goblin Nation. So Green Goblin just go by that name for a while. And so under his orders, Goblin Nation began to take in children to raise into criminals. So thank Shredder for the first team killed by Red Goblin, Norman with Carnage. Goblin Nation no longer has a leader, or just isn't around anymore. I mean, their last appearance was in 2018, so who knows? Honestly, Marvel probably put them on the back burner for like another 10 years or so, then bring them back in like a big old event storyline, and then disappear again for another decade. Spider-Man 2099. First appearing in Spider-Man 2099, issue 1, in September of 1992, Miguel O'Hara was your average, everyday, future teenage rebellious genius who gets bitten by a spider. And by a spider, I mean he gets 50% of his DNA turned into spider DNA using a DNA rewriting machine. And only survives this because this is a comic book. This gives him powers similar to Spider-Man, which leads to him becoming Spider-Man of the Year 2099. Created by Peter David and Rick Leonardi, Spider-Man 2099 was one of the heroes who kickstarted Marvel's 2099 era in the 90s, and is easily the most popular character from that era. I mean, when was the last time you thought of Punisher 2099, Hulk 2099, Ghost Rider 2099, or Doctor Doom 2099? Anyways, since his introduction, he's become one of the most popular alternate universe Spider-Men, appearing in various video games like Shattered Dimensions, Edge of Time, Superhero Squad, and Lego Marvel Superheroes 2, and even as a skin in Spider-Man PS4. But recently he showed up in Into the Spider-Verse, voiced by the legend himself, Oscar Isaac. But anyways, let's go back and talk about his powers and stuff. As I mentioned before, he has similar powers to Spider-Man, but not identical. Sure, he has superior strength, spider sensibility, and enhanced healing, but he also has talons on his fingers, which can be used as weapons. He also wears a completely indestructible costume that allows for gliding and has night vision. He's also crossed over with the mainline Marvel Universe several times before, like in Spider-Verse, Secret Wars 2015, etc. As mentioned before, he's easily the most popular alternate universe Spider-Man out there, besides maybe Miles Morales. Silk. First appearing in Amazing Spider-Man issue 1, released in April 2014, Cindy Boom was bitten by the same radioactive spider as Peter Parker. This granted her spider-like powers, similar to Spider-Man, but not exactly like them, as she has all the normal spider abilities, but with the addition of claws and organic webbing. After her powers came to her, she was then trained by a man named Ezekiel Sims until he realized a guy named Orlin, you know, the Spider-Verse Orlin, who went around murdering thousands of Spider-Men across the multiverse, was tracking her. And so Ezekiel locked Cindy in a bunker with food, water, and entertainment. And there she stayed for 10 years. When Peter found out about her, he rescued her and they started banging, almost immediately. You see, she instantly started fooling around with Peter because of their shared spider sense. So basically, if two people get bitten by the same radioactive spider, they become very attracted to each other. But anyways, after being freed by Peter, Cindy Moon became the superhero Silk, and has appeared in tons of comics ranging from a supporting role in Spider-Man stories to big crossover events like Spider-Verse to her own comic series. She's shown up in the MCU, in name only, will be starring in the female-centered Into the Spider-Verse spin-off film, and will be starring in a sunk Amazon Prime series that probably won't get made. Ben Reilly. First appearing in Amazing Spider-Man 149, released in July 1975, Ben Reilly is one of the many clones of Peter Parker. Created by the Jackal, he was originally a one-off villain who fought Spider-Man and then disappeared from the comics. That was until the Clone Saga started in 1984, where Ben would return as the Scarlet Spider. And I can go into the Clone Saga again, but an extremely too long didn't read version is that there were a lot of Spider-Man clones. Peter and Ben each thought that they were the real Peter, and eventually Peter was revealed to be the real one. It was pretty complex, confusing, and overall not really liked by people. But people did like Ben, and because of that popularity, Ben was resurrected after his death at the hands of Green Goblin, only to then die again. But then he was brought back, then died again, but then was brought back, and is currently still alive, though at the moment as a villain named Chasm. Throughout the decades, he's become a fairly large character in the Spider-Man multiverse, as he showed up numerous times in mainline comics, his own comics, big event storylines, and even cartoons. Mania. First appearing in Venom issue 31, released in February 2013, Andrea Benton was living a pretty hard life until she eventually met Flash Thompson and realized that he was actually Venom. This naturally got her attention, and when Jack-o'-lantern, oh, we'll, we'll get to him later, trust me, tried to kill Andrea, Flash protected her with a portion of Venom, which ended up bonding with her by accident. And so she became the villain, hero, anti-hero, Mania. She would fight crime as Mania for some time until she'd eventually lose the symbionts and bond with Scream. But then she'd lose the Scream symbionts and then bonded with Silence. Yeah, she's been through a bunch of symbiotes. Her powers also differ a lot from other symbiote bonding characters. For example, her Hell Mark, which was accidentally given to her when the Venom symbionts bonded with her. Basically, Mephisto at one point put a Hell Mark on the symbionts, and then when she bonded with the symbionts, she got it. This allows her to have superhuman healing, create portals to hell, summon demons to fight for her, create demonic weapons, and can even transform into a demon.
It's not only action, you get right back to Spider-Man. Some of them on Disney XD.
If I need Spider-Man will go anywhere, anytime.
Superheroes gotta do.
Whoa, Spider-Man!
Sorry, I can't hang around.
Actions at McDonald's. Take a break with a hamburger happy for just $1.99. They're Spidey Spider-Man characters and hot cars with cool moves. One with every $1.99 hamburger happy meal you buy your kids.
Spider-Man, I just so smart. Try it.
How did I say? Bye. Swing into adventure. Now back to Spider-Man, right here on Disney XD.
Webman. Appearing in Spidey Super Stories issue 25, released in May 1977, Webman is the first ever clone of Spider-Man. He was created by Dr. Doom of all villains, who used a twin machine after tricking Spider-Man into looking at a mirror. However, Webman had one problem. While the twin machine was able to create life, it basically made bizarro versions of whoever it cloned. So instead of being extremely smart like Spider-Man, Webman was extremely stupid. Upon realizing this, Doom attempted to create another clone, but Spider-Man showed up and destroyed the twin machine, and Doom was arrested. Though Webman was never actually arrested, so I guess in the Spidey Super Stories continuity, there's just a stupid clone of Spider-Man walking around. Also, Webman appears on the cover of Spider-Verse issue 6, released in March 2020, though he doesn't actually appear in the story. TASM 2 MP3 player arm. So originally, Spider-Man's design in the Amazing Spider-Man 2 was going to have a built-in MP3 player on its web shooters. This was apparently Mark Webb's idea, and I don't really have anything else to add here except that this idea made it to concept art. So Rhino, Electro, and Sandman movies. In November 2021, it was reported by reliable leakers that Sony is planning on making a solo Rhino movie and a solo Sandman movie. And then, a month later, after the release of No Way Home, it was reported by more reliable leakers that Sony is also planning on giving Electro a spin-off film after Jamie Foxx's performance in No Way Home received critical acclaim. Now, I doubt any of these movies will actually happen. The only one with a chance of happening is Electro, and that's only because Jamie Foxx's star power. But hey, who knows? I mean, Morbius got made. Glass Man. So in Spider-Man 3, we see Sandman turn to mud after getting wet. Well, did you know that he can also turn to other things? In the Incredible Hulk issue 114, released in January 1969, the Mandarin and Sandman, a weird pairing, teamed up to defeat the Hulk. They succeeded in capturing Hulk and Betty Ross, only for Hulk to break free after finding out Mandarin and Sandman were holding Betty Ross hostage. Mandarin then betrays Sandman upon concluding that he's a failure and pushes the Man of Steel into a pressurized vat, turning Sandman into a being of pure glass. And so Hulk decides to murder him, but he is stopped by Betty Ross, who tells him to spare him. He continued to be Glassman for a brief period of time until he was temporarily cured thanks to the wizard. Eventually, though, he regained his left vision for good after a blood transfusion from Betty Ross. Sadly for Sandman, though, this wouldn't even be remotely the last time he returned into glass. Lady Spider, first appearing in the Spider-Verse arc, Meg Riley was your ordinary girl living in a steampunk society. Her father was a scientist that did some testing of animals. And so one day, May decided to free the animals because, testing of animals is just like objectively morally bad. However, when she tried to free the spider, well, Spider had some happened without, inventor and universe. After her father died, she went on to use spare parts from his garage to create a steampunk Spider-Man suit with full mechanical arms. In fact, she actually couldn't wall climb, relied on these arms to climb walls. So she gained the rest of Spider-Man's powers, including super strength and all that. And so she became Lady Spider, and mostly fights in multiverse spanning spider movies. I think a miniseries set would actually be really cool. But as of right now, she's only appeared across events like Spider-Verse, Spider-Geddon, and Electroverse. Yeah, Electroverse happened. But hey, at least she showed up in Spider-Man Unlimited and Lego Marvel Superheroes 2. Spider-Man Lotus. Spider-Man Lotus is a fan film being created by G.J. Conrad about Peter Parker dealing with the aftermath of Gwen Stacy's death and comforting a terminally ill child. Spider-Man Lotus isn't out yet, but it has received a release window of summer 2022. The film was funded via the Indiegogo and received $112,079, which is a good amount of money, I'd say. The film also has an original spider suit designed by Diego the Trinity with a custom logo created by Kevin Jackson. The trailer for the fan film has been out for a few months now, so I highly recommend checking it out and keeping an eye on the project. It's looking great so far. Here's hoping that Lotus Timmy gets a power grid so we can power scale both versions of Timmy. Peter Parker almost robs a jewelry store. In Amazing Spider-Man issue 87, released in August 1970, Peter thinks he's losing his powers. This causes him to become really stressed out and borderline delirious. It's during this period of time when Gwen Stacy is celebrating her birthday, and Peter has become a gift. So in his delirious state, he decides to break into a jewelry store to steal a pearl necklace. However, while doing this, he realizes what he's doing and snaps out of it. So he doesn't end up stealing the necklace, but he still broke into a jewelry shop with the full intention of robbing it. And it turns out he's actually not losing his powers. He's the flu. We have the Shadows cover vote. Before the release of Spider-Man with Shadows in 2008, Activision launched a marketing campaign for the game called Seize Control that allowed fans to vote on what the cover art of the game would look like. Fans voted, and option 2 was decided on, which, thank God, I'm not too big on either pieces of art. I think option 2 is miles better than option 1. Amazing Spider-Man 2, the MJ cut. So Shailene Woodley filmed scenes as Mary Jane Watson for the Amazing Spider-Man 2. There were multiple scenes of her, but all of them were cut, and none of them have ever been released to the public. This is because, according to Mark Webb, there was a creative decision to streamline the story and focus on Peter and Gwen and the relationship. Despite all of her scenes being cut, she was supposed to reprise her role in The Amazing Spider-Man 3 and further installments in the Tessiverse. The Ringer. First appearing in Defenders issue 51 in June 1977, Anthony Davis was a small-time crook who created a supervillain suit and became the villain, The Ringer. He'd used disc-shaped weapons and didn't exactly do too well. And during one of his first fights, he got his teeth smashed in. This made him retire from being a criminal, and so he hired Tim Burr to build a new suit of armor. But not for him, but for him to sell for a profit. Unfortunately for him, the police and Spider-Man came to arrest him. While trying to escape, Ringer met up with the Beetle, who put an explosive ring around Ringer's body and forced him to fight Spider-Man in order for the Beetle to gain data on Spider-Man. After that, he'd go on to become the villain Strike Back, and eventually die in a fight with Stegrog. While a really minor villain, he'd also make an appearance in another continuity, Spidey Super Stories. Appearing in Spidey Super Stories issue 51, released in December 1980, Anthony Davis in this universe was a scientist who got fired from his job. Being a mentally stable person, his response was then to become a supervillain that relied on shooting rings called the Ringer. His career wouldn't exactly last very long, as despite his throwing rings and his roller skating rings, he would eventually run out of these things. So he was arrested by Spider-Man. Remember, kids, if you're going to be a supervillain, remember to bring enough gadgets. Spider-Man India. First appearing in Spider-Man India Issue 1, released in January 2005, Pimmit's Makar was a normal kid until he encountered an ancient spirit who gave him the power of a spider to battle the demons threatening India. Oh yeah, in this universe, demons get summoned to this world because his universe is Norman Osborn. He used an ancient amulet to summon demons to Earth. Because, why not? And so Spider-Man rolls out to defeat this universe's Doc Ock, Venom, and as mentioned, Green Goblin. Sadly for Spidey India, he hasn't really received too much spotlight since his initial miniseries. He's appeared with a bit of prominence in Spider-Verse, Web Warriors, and Spider-Geddon, but he hasn't really gotten a major solo outing since. Anyways, his powers aren't really that special. I mean, they're your standard Spider-Man powers. But what is special is his name. I'm not going to repeat it again because I can barely speak, let alone say names, but his name means pure and light maker. A little nod to the fact that, well, he's a superhero. Apparently he's going to make an appearance in Across the Spider-Verse Part 1. I'm not entirely sure if that's true, but hey, here's hoping it is. Spider-Man Fake Red. Spider-Man Fake Red is a manga written from July 2019 to March 2020. In this universe, Yu Onome becomes Spider-Man after finding the Spider-Man suits in a dumpster. And so he basically dumpster dives to get it and becomes a superhero with no powers. Yeah, this entire story is basically what if Spider-Man had no actual powers? And yeah, it doesn't go too well for this dude. In fact, most of the manga is about the guy struggling to be Spider-Man as, web swinging around with no powers. That's gonna, destroy your arms and stuff. In this story, he faces off against Spider-Man villains like Screwball, Mysterio, and Venom. Also, there's hologram versions of the Sinister Six towards the end of it. This manga received a pretty positive reception, but I guess didn't do too well in sales, as it was cancelled less than a year after its personally haven't read Fake Red yet, but from what I've seen, fans seem to really like it. So while it has been cancelled and
Freshly ground beans and just a simple swipe. Phillips Barristina. For results. Phillips Barristina. Join the new coffee movement.
probably get a continuation of it anytime soon. At least it will remain a cult classic among Spider-Man fans. Doc Ock's Stark Arms. One of the original ideas for Spider-Man 2 was that Tony Stark was going to be the true creator of Doc Ock's tentacles, meaning that they'd be made from Stark Tech. This idea made it into a very early draft of the script, but it didn't happen. Not because Sam Raimi didn't want it to, but because it was legally not possible, as Marvel wouldn't allow Sony to use the name Tony Stark for their film. But Sony did have the rights to Doctor Strange, so they ended up referencing him. Though it's funny because less than a year after Spider-Man 2 came out in April 2005, Marvel Studios purchased the rights to Doctor Strange. So if Spider-Man 2 got pushed back a year or something like that, that little reference probably would have had to be removed. Spider-Man joins the X-Men. After Wolverine died, don't worry, he's okay again. Insert Goliath joke here. Spider-Man honored a request for him to become a teacher at the Jean Grey School for Higher Learning, which basically meant that Spider-Man finally became an official X-Men member. This lasted only for a little bit, as many top students will also investigate the school for a potential traitor. This all happened in the 6-issue miniseries Spider-Man and the X-Men, which, yes, is where the term People the Dinosaur scenes from. Although technically this wouldn't be the first time Spider-Man's been part of the X-Men. For example, in the video game X-Men Mutant Academy 2, Spider-Man is part of the X-Men's roster. I mean, technically you could say he's just a guest fighter, but whatever. He's there. I thought I'd mention it. Anyways, while I doubt it, maybe Spider-Man the X-Men is just like a giant reference to how fans have debated for years why Spider-Man wasn't part of the X-Men. I mean, because, since he's technically a mutant. I'm sure whichever side you're on, you'll make a great argument about it in the comments below. The Doppelganger, first appearing in Infinity War issue 1 in April 1992, Doppelganger was a mindless clone of Spider-Man. Well, they say duplicate, but isn't that like the same thing as a clone? Anyways, while he was originally created in Infinity War, he was killed fairly quickly by Hobgoblin. But he was brought back to life thanks to Demogoblin and served as his pet. His semi-sentient, six-armed clone was arch nemesis Pet. I was gonna say that's like really evil, but I mean, look at Demo Goblin. I think he knows it's evil. Anyways, after that, Doppelganger has had a very weird run throughout the comics. Like, he's not really a villain. I mean, yeah, he's like a bad guy, but he's more just like a henchman because he seems to always be fighting under somebody, whether it be his adopted mom Shriek, Carnage, Demo Goblin, etc. He was also part of the Spider Army or the Spider Verse, so I guess he's not like fully evil. Yeah, he's not really a big villain or even a big player in Spider-Man lore, despite his look being pretty marketable. He's pretty much just a remnant to Infinity War that just never really went away. Honestly, from the very limited amount of stuff I've read of Doppelganger, it seems like writers just kind of bring him back because they're like, alright guys, let's bring this character back because we need a really cool variant cover this month. And that's kind of it, really. I think there's stuff you could actually do with him. Like, maybe he becomes like more sentient or something. He has like a change of heart or I don't know. As of right now, it doesn't really seem like anyone's too interested in giving this six-armed cameo anything to do. Vulture and Spider-Man 3. In 2018, Thomas Hayden Church, Sandman in Spider-Man 3 and No Way Home, revealed in an interview that originally Spider-Man 3 was going to have Vulture in it. However, this idea didn't last very long, as quite early into production, Vulture was ready out of the film, with the intention of him being introduced in Spider-Man 4. And so the film carried on the Spider-Man vs. Sandman-centric film, until 74 Sam Raimi introduced Venom into the film, which, well, we know how that turned out. Steel Spider, first appearing in Peter Clifford's Spectacular Spider-Man issue 72, released in November of 1922. Oliver Osnick was a guy who just loved Doc Ock, and so he became the villain Kid Ock, because that's a good name, and tried to rob a toy store. Though he failed, and Spider-Man caught him and gave him a very stern talking to, like, stop doing what's wrong with you? Because of this, he changed his tune and became a superhero named Spider. He has nothing to do with the names I see. Bud was a failure as a superhero as well. He is basically a comic relief villain or problem of the month that Peter had to deal with. However, that all changed in Spider-Man Unlimited issue 5, released in May 1994, where he became the Steel Spider after his girlfriend was attacked by some buggers. Using his new gadgets, like pepper spray blasters and a gauntlet with a grappling hook, he went around and brutally beat the hell out of the buggers, but would quickly retire from being Steel Spider after finally realizing that he never wanted to be a vigilante. But then, a little over a decade later, after the events of the Civil War, he took up the mantle of Steel Spider again after being inspired by Spider-Man unmasking himself. This this did not end well for him, as he was then hunted down by the Thunderbolts because he refused to unmask himself. This resulted in battling the Thunderbolts, which led to his left arm being bitten off by Venom Scorpion, and was then thrown into the Negative Zone prison. And that's where his story ends. No, really, he's never been released. The last we hear about him is during the Heroic Age storyline, where Captain America places
No
his
way,
incarceration
no
under
way,
consideration.
bro.
That's really sad and has to stop Steel Spider from appearing in cartoons.
Oh,
He's gone
shit.
Spider-Man and Marvel's Spider-Man. He's also served as an inspiration for Spider-Man with Doc Ock films in the '94 Spider-Man series, which also served as inspiration for Spider-Verse. So in a weird way, Steel Spider had a hand in making Spider-Verse a thing. Spider-Man. First appearing in One issue 23, released in July 1980, Spider-Man is the answer to the age-old question: what if Aunt May was bitten by the radioactive spider? This only happens because Peter forgot his lunch, and so she rushes over to the science center to get to him. But then, uh-oh, the spider bites her. Now, originally she would use her newfound powers exclusively for doing tricks and stunts to earn money for her family. But she eventually becomes a superhero after the menacing Meat Frog makes his debut. She remained an obscure character for decades until the Spider-Verse event brought her and her universe leader Ben back. After this, she'd appear in Spider-Geddon and a storyline where she had to fight a Carnage version of herself that I talked about in the last I spoke. Also, Spider-Man is currently the adopted mother of the Inheritors, the villains of Spider-Geddon, after the Spider-Man army transferred their consciousness to the bodies of infants. Doc Ock controls the Avengers. In Amazing Spider-Man issue 686, released in May 2012, Doc Ock is able to mind control the Avengers using his Octobots. Together, they're the Sinister Six. Which means, yes, technically Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, Hawkeye, Spider-Woman, and Red Hulk have all been members of the Sinister Six. Though Thor wasn't actually part of when he was part of the Sinister Six, as when God got into control of him, he suddenly lost the ability to use and hold his hammer, so, all the lightning powers he can use. The only thing left to mention is how Mysterio was one of the people who helped Spider-Man free the Avengers from Doc Ock's control. Scrapped Spider-Verse cameos. So seeing Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland all chilling out together in No Way Home was pretty cool. Well, this crossover was actually meant to happen a couple of years prior in animation. Originally, Into the Spider-Verse was going to have the 3 live-action Spideys make cameo appearances in the film. The idea was pitched to Sony, but Sony were like, no, as they felt it was too soon. Now I'm willing to bet that all 3 of them will make an appearance in Across the Spider-Verse Part 1 or Part 2 in some capacity after the insane success of No Way Home. Lightsaber duel. So in Spidey Super Stories issue 31, released in November of 1977, Spider-Man has a lightsaber duel with Doctor Doom. In this story, after beating up Sam the Sesame Street robot, Spider-Man is thrown into an intergalactic war with Doctor Doom, Moondragon, and a bunch of other characters. So Spider-Man swings into action to defeat Doctor Doom and his Star Jaws, an obvious Death Star reference that can destroy planets by just flat out eating them. Honestly, not gonna lie, a giant machine the size of a planet that literally eats planets is probably one of the scariest things Spider-Man's had to face off against ever. After disguising himself to infiltrate the Star Jaws, Spider-Man saves Moondragon and has that lightsaber duel I mentioned earlier. Then they all escape and head over to the Pentagon to form a plan that involves the Star Jaws hitting a fake planet filled with TNT. The plan works, and Spider-Man has saved the day. Now, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, this was a big parody of A New Hope. But still, the fact that Spider-Man in some continuity destroyed the Death Star with teeth is pretty wild. Secret Defenders. This is another team that Spider-Man was a part of for a bit. Secret Defenders was the successor to The Defenders, led by Doctor Strange. It included members like Hulk, Silver Surfer, Spider-Man, Punisher, Wolverine, Deadpool, Absolutely. There's running of them. The Witch, War Machine, Ghost Rider, Drax, Iceman, Nova, etc. So yeah, there really wasn't a theme to this group. They just kind of looked at the Marvel Universe and were like, alright, let's throw this guy in, throw that guy in, alright, we're good. During his time with the Secret Defenders, which my dad wasn't very long, the old webhead fought demons, got trapped in the Death Dimension, fought the Fantastic Four, chased down the Human Torch with the help of Hulk, Wolverine, Ghost Rider, and that's it. You see, the thing about the Secret Defenders is that while Spider-Man, Deadpool, Ghost Rider, Nova, etc., were all technically Secret Defenders, they're not actually on the same team, except for that one time where Spider-Man and Ghost Rider were on the same team. You see, after every mission the Secret Defenders go on, besides Strange, every member is swapped out with a new member. This is because Strange would only take members that he needed for a certain mission. How do you do this? Via tarot cards. So, yeah, because of some tarot cards, Strange decided to take Spider-Man to the Death Dimension. Mayday Parker. First appearing in What If issue 105, released in February of 1998, Mayday Parker has gone from a random What If character to one of the most popular alternate universe Spider-Man ever. She comes from Earth 92 and is the daughter of Peter Parker and Mary Jane, but was kept from knowing about Peter's whole life as Spider-Man, as her parents just didn't want her to know about all that stuff. Also, they were really hoping Mayday would give all powers. I mean, she's the daughter of Spider-Man, so of course she's gonna have powers. So yeah, around the age of 15, she develops her powers and becomes Spider-Girl. As Spider-Girl, and later Spider-Woman, she has all the abilities that Spider-Man has, except that she has a more advanced version of the Spider-Sense, and the cause of her
You gotta pick that up, Brody.
Now, you might be wondering if she's a mutant, because, technically she would be, right? Well, she's not. You see, she wasn't born with these powers. She inherited them from her father and was bred true. the hell that mean? Bread true. Anyways, Mayday is quite notable as her original comic run with the longest running superhero comic with a female lead that Marvel ever created at 102 issues. Don't know if that's true anymore, but it was for a time. As for her villains, she's fought Green Goblin, who in this universe is named Normie Osborn. What a tragic life. She also has a clone of her named April Parker, who would become the villain Mayhem. Why did she have a clone? Because of the Spider-Man comic, of course. Everyone gets cloned. And Mayday has also existed in the mainline Marvel concept. Oh, right.
Jeez.
Was kind of part of it for a bit. Anyways, she's also appeared in several crossover stories like Spider-Verse and Spider-Geddon, along with various games like Marvel Avengers Alliance, Shattered Dimensions, and some cameo, and a skit in Marvel Ultimate Alliance. She even served as inspiration for Petra Parker in Ultimate Spider-Man. Spider-Wolf. Only appearing in Amazing Spider-Man issue 11, released in December 2014, Spider-Wolf is, well, he's dead. But he's basically Spider-Man if Peter became a werewolf as well. And that's it. No, no joke. This dude just shows up and gets killed in a panel. I only included him in this iceberg because a werewolf Spider-Man is pretty crazy.
It's
Got a story with him, but oh well, I guess. I should also mention that there is another Spider-Wolf with Spider-Man, though he's called Wolf Spider, and he's not a werewolf. He's yet again another evil version of Spider-Man, who murdered his universe as Miles Morales. Earth X. Written by Jim Krueger and Alex Ross, Earth X, the limited comic series released from 1999 to 2000, and received 3 sequels: Universe X from 2000 to 2001, Paradise X from 2002 to 2003, and Marvel's X 2020. In this universe, Black Bolt and the Inhumans do a little bit of trolling as they release a eugenic mist into Earth's atmosphere in order to mutate everyone on the planet so that humans wouldn't be persecuted anymore. This does end up mutating the world's population, but it also results in like a bunch of Marvel characters dying for a variety of different reasons. But hey, you came to this iceberg to learn about Spider-Man stuff, so let's talk about this universe's Spider-Man. Well, first, I want to introduce this universe's Norman Osborn, who became this universe's U.S. president after creating a parasitical collective alien hive-minding creature that mind controls people. So, a pretty good candidate for president. Anyways, this universe's Peter Parker was actually married before the mutant apocalypse, but his wife, Mary Jane, died before the apocalypse due to cancer. Also, Norman Osborn dodges Spider-Man so the world knows he's Peter Parker, and his daughter is bonded with the Venom symbiote. So, yeah, his life isn't really going very well at the moment. This resulted in him retiring from Spider-Man for quite a while, leading Peter to get really out of shape, but was eventually called back into doing superhero stuff after his daughter was mind controlled by the villain Skull. After this, Peter joins the NYPD, and together with Luke Cage, they keep New York safe. Oh, and later down the line, Peter and his daughter will get caught up in an illusionary world, where she finds out that Peter would rather have lived in a world where he married Gwen Stacy, that his daughter never existed, so that all of his personal tragedies would never have happened. And she wasn't very happy with that, so she beat the crap out of Peter until he apologized. Captain America becomes the Spider King. So during the Spider Island event, Steve Rogers, aka Captain America, was captured by the Jackal, who went on to mutate Captain America into a giant spider named the Spider King. Now, as the Spider King, Steve was impregnated with thousands of spider eggs in order to spread a virus that gave everyone in New York City Spider-Man-like powers. There's even a scene in which Spider King vomits up mutant spiders to escape captivity, because that's just one of his powers, I guess. How horrible. Evil, in fact, actually. Captain America was eventually cured of this mutation thanks to the efforts of Agent Venom, only after capturing him and placing him in a military facility until a cure could be found, but hey, I guarantee you, Captain America, every single night, probably has nightmares about vomiting up spiders. Because, again, I need to specify this. This wasn't a power he had. Captain America, at one point, superpower was that he could vomit up spiders. Spider Island was a very interesting book. Pestilence. Only appearing in Cable and Deadpool issue 15, released in May 2005, this universe's Spider-Man was chosen by Apocalypse to be one of his horsemen, and so Apocalypse turned Peter into the horrid abomination called Pestilence. As Pestilence, his powers are pretty much the same as normal Spider-Man. It's just that he has multiple arms now, and he just loves to kill. So he's got mega punches. He also likes to suck the bow arrow people while they're alive. So, there's that too, I guess. Surprisingly, this version of Spider-Man has never returned, ever, in any, multiverse thing. Though there was another multiverse Spider-Man who was also mutated by Apocalypse and was also named Pestilence. This version of the character first appeared in Avengers issue 2, released in June 2010, but this was an entirely different character. It was not related to the one in Cable Deadpool at all. This version of the character was actually brought into the Blu-ray universe for a brief period, after a time stream malfunction caused by Kang.
Some of the action going back to Spider-Man. Some of the watching his BMC.
$0 welcome to Living Case Page 5. Keeping those wars only the terms and conditional fees apply.
Jesus. Get your own box. And catch Spider-Man 2 in theaters June 30th.
Let's get back to the action of Spider-Man. Next November is what is BMC.
Marvel Creativity Center. Marvel Creativity Center is a video game released in 1996 for PC, and it's basically a game that teaches kids how to create comics, pogs, trading cards, and covers, the quote-unquote Marvel way. Stan Lee and Spider-Man acting as teachers. There's also a radio that you can listen to music with, or listen to Robot Rampage updates, in which radio hosts talk about sightings of Marvel heroes battling robots. Surprisingly, there is a plot to this game. The plot is about how Marvel Studios is being messed with by a supervillain. It's broken contact with all the Marvel artists and writers, which leaves Stan Lee asking random children to make comics in order to figure out who this mysterious villain is. In case you're wondering who it is, it's Machine Smith. It's quite the obscure little relic of the early days of Spidey video games. Cosmic Spider-Man. In Spectacular Spider-Man issue 158, released in December of 1989, Spider-Man gets possessed by the powers of Captain Universe, in order for him to battle the Tri-Sentinel, a jacked-up Sentinel created by Loki to kill Spider-Man. Because Loki's team of villains, including Kingpin, Wizard, Doctor Doom, Magneto, the Mandarin, and Red Skull, somehow together weren't able to defeat Spider-Man. Anyways, he was given the powers of Captain Universe by accident, as he had gotten them while helping a friend do an experiment to tap into a mysterious extra-dimensional power source. This power source upgraded his already superhuman speed and strength, gave him the ability to fly, gave him super hearing, and the power to turn his webs into adamantium and fire energy blasts from his hands. Basically, he was super OP. He would end up losing his powers shortly after defeating the Tri-Sentinel, and that was that. Until in Amazing Spider-Man issue 9, released in November 2014, an alternate universe Peter Parker was introduced from Earth 13, who kept the powers of Captain Universe, and thus became almost godlike. Though because his powers
Get this nigga out of here, bro.
when the villain Solus appeared, feasts on pure life force, Cosmic Spider-Man kind of bit the dust very quickly. Doc Ock and cocaine. In Amazing Spider-Man issue 339, released in July 1990, Doc Ock begins a new sinister plan to spread a poison he created around the world that had caused all cocaine addicts to convulse when using the drug. He then offered cures of the poison to the addicts for an insanely high price. He wanted to do all this so he would get enough funds to take over the world. So he basically run the entire cocaine market. Now, the rest of the Sinister Six who he was working with at the time didn't know about this, and they weren't very happy with this plan. So they tried to kill Doc Ock. But Ock was able to defeat all five of them and escape, just when it seemed like Doc Ock's plan was going to work. Spider-Man then called into the Horde to help him, and, well, Thor was going to end the plan instantly because he's a liberal gun of thunder.
That's sad. Like, what the fuck?
Shadows, a very controversial Spider-Man game, with a ton of people loving it, a lot of other people think it's overrated as hell. The one thing that pretty much everyone agrees upon is that the game should have older costumes, but it doesn't. Yes, there's the black suit, but you get what I mean by older costumes. Well, unknown to most people, Wing of Shadows does have older costumes, just in the Wii version of the game, which is basically the same game as the PC 360 PS3 versions, just graphically scaled down a lot. And so the Wii version of the Shadows includes the skins Ben Riley, Spider Carnage, Cosmic Spider-Man, the Spider Armor, Iron Spider, and 2099. The original Spider-Man 3 plans. I've already talked about Spider-Man 3's deleted scenes from last iceberg, and I mentioned the original Vulture idea in this one. But there's still more stuff spread in Spider-Man 3. For instance, Venom was originally going to be mostly animatronic, not CG. There are production stills and other behind-the-scenes photos of the animatronic, and it looked pretty awesome. It sadly didn't work too well while filming, so it was scrapped. Though I'm pretty sure you can still see it, and I think a teaser trailer for Spider-Man 3. Also, Venom's death was going to actually be a lot more brutal. Anyone's been pulled out of Venom, it was going to be revealed that Venom had literally eaten Eddie, with Peter seeing Eddie's venomified skull as he blew up. Also, the black suit was originally going to be extremely comic accurate to the film, with an entire suit being made, but it didn't end up being used. Finally, there's also this black suit design that's more of a purple suit. I'm not super big on it, but it'd be a neat skin in Spider-Man 2, along with the red and black suit. Come on, somebody, I can put this down. Jack-O-Lantern, first appearing in Captain America issue 396, released in January 1992. Stephen Levins was your average mercenary who sold their soul to the devil for power. He's got super strength, the ability to create and burn fire, and a weird ability where if he looks at someone in the eyes, then screams, that person he's looking at chokes to death. He didn't really do too much in his first couple appearances outside of fighting Captain America and Spider-Man. It wasn't until Civil War issue 5, released in November 2006, that he got to do anything of note. That is, attacking Spider-Man in the sewers, only to get shot through the head by Punisher. But then, Satan himself decided to possess Stephen Levin's corpse in Ghost Rider issue 8, released in February 2007. But that didn't last too long as Ghost Rider exercised his body by ripping out Levin's heart, setting it on fire, and putting it back in his body. Basically a Mortal Kombat fatality. But then, in Prowler issue 1, released in October 2016, Levins was cloned by Jackal and had his soul transferred into his cloned body. He then go on to create a group of henchmen called the Jack-O-Lanterns, and
Dumbass
that's
niggas,
kind of
bro.
it. For someone who's not very important to the Marvel Universe, you've got a hell of a story, but we're not done yet. You see, he wasn't the first Jack-O-Lantern. That was Jason McAdell Jr., aka the Hobgoblin. Originally, Machine Man issue 19, released in November of 1980, he went by the name Jack-O-Lantern. 7 years before becoming Hobgoblin, he took up the mantle of Jack-O-Lantern after working as a CIA field agent. When he was eventually fired from that job for being too brutal, which, yeah, the CIA wouldn't fire you for that, he became a mercenary and created a weird-looking glider in costume. So there's been, 2 Jack-O-Lanterns, right? No. Oh god, I wish. There's also McGuire Beck, cousin of Mysterio, and Daniel Beckart, who worked together as Mad Jack, the new Jack-O-Lantern. They first showed up as Jack-O-Lantern in Spectacular Spider-Man issue 241 in December of 1996, though eventually Beckart would return to being Mysterio. While Beck continued being Jack-O-Lantern until she was eventually arrested, they didn't really appear too much. There's not a lot of notable things that happened with them. There was also a currently unknown individual who took the mantle of Jack-O-Lantern, who first appeared in Secret War issue 1, released in February 2004. Not much else to know about him, outside the fact that he got his equipment from the Tinkerer, and he claimed to be Jason McAdell Jr., but wasn't. And we're not done yet. In Dark Gray Main Men issue 1, released in September 2009, Stephen Levin's brother took up the mantle of Jack-O-Lantern after murdering the 15-year-old daughter of his neighbor and drinking her blood as part of a deal he made with Satan to become the new Jack-O-Lantern. And we're still not done. Then there's Jack, who first appeared in Venom issue 1, released in March 2011, who became a supervillain after being kidnapped at a young age and just deciding, this dude kidnapped me. He's my true father. He then went back to his parents and murdered them. After that, he became an assassin who would scoop the brains of his victims and place candles inside them, and claimed that he went and killed everyone who ever called himself Jack-O-Lantern. So all those dudes I talked about before, they're dead. Except for Jason McAdell Jr., who's not dead, so So maybe they're all still alive, which is why. I have no idea. Anyways, this Jack-o'-lantern was a villain of Venom and had a wide variety of weapons, like acid candy, robotic devil dolls that are designed to psychologically destroy people, and of course, pumpkin bombs. And finally, we have some rando with no name from the Jack-o'-lantern costume, put it on, and became a villain. He first appeared in Venom issue 1, released in May 2018, and got one of his eyes gouged out by Venom. Months later, he got actual powers from a witch, tried to kill Venom, but failed. And all those guys are just the main timeline of Jack-o'-lanterns. There's a whole bunch of alternate universe Jack-o'-lanterns, but I'm not talking about all of them. Here's an image of all of them. All right. Peter hits a pregnant Mary Jane. Spectacular Spider-Man issue 226, released in July 1995, is the middle of the Clone Saga, and Peter and Ben Riley do some tests to figure out who's the real Peter Parker. The test results come in, and Peter is labeled as the clone, while Ben is labeled as the real Peter. Peter isn't exactly very thrilled about this, understandably so, so he tries to beat the truth out of Ben. It's a brutal beating that Mary Jane, who's pregnant at the time, watches. Eventually, she steps in and tries to stop Peter because he might accidentally kill Ben. In a deranged state, Peter punches Mary Jane into a wall out of anger. He then almost immediately realizes what he's done. Instead of being like, I'm sorry, he just goes, my God, what have I done? And runs away. But it doesn't really matter because Mary Jane instantly forgives him, so maybe this served as inspiration for Peter hitting Mary Jane in Spider-Man 3? Though I don't know about that, as Sam Raimi has said before, he's not too knowledgeable about the 90s Spider-Man stuff, so maybe not. Anyways, Peter punched his pregnant wife, but don't worry, she didn't miscarry. She did give birth to the kid, but the kid was instantly abducted and the plotline was never resolved, so canceled Kevin Smith comic. Spider-Man Black Cat, The Evil That Men Do, was a 6-issue miniseries starring, well, Spider-Man and My Life Black Cat, written by Kevin Smith, released from August 2002 to March 2006. Yeah, the release between issues was very spaced out. Now, why am I calling this comic canceled if it was fully released? Well, I'm not. You see, originally, this miniseries was meant to lead into the main Amazing Spider-Man comic run, where Kevin Smith was going to take over as the main writer. However, this 6-issue miniseries took 4 years to release every issue, and so Kevin Smith was fired from the future position, so that Kevin Smith run of Amazing Spider-Man was cancelled. Also, because it took so long to complete the issues, he was only paid for his writing after all 6 issues had been released, because of some weird Marvel payment system. So that's me grabbing Venom 2099, first appearing in Punisher 2099 issue 1, released in December of 1992. Ron Stone is the older half-brother to Miguel O'Hara, aka Spider-Man 2099, and is what you'd call an asshole. He takes pleasure in people's pain, and was the one who had Punisher 2099's family murdered. Shortly after that, he becomes Venom in Spider-Man 2099, issue 35, released in July 1995. This is because after Punisher 2099 found him and, did some Punisher stuff to him, Kron just so happened to find a symbiote in the sewers. And so now as Venom, Kron becomes a supervillain and goes after Spider-Man. Right after he murders Miguel's ex-girlfriend, though he's eventually beaten and locked away. His powers differ from the main universe's Venom, as he now has acidic blood and saliva, which is a direct reference to the Xenomorph, the Aliens franchise. This was left over from concept art of Venom 2099, in which it was directly based on the Xenomorph, and for a while, Venom 2099 was forgotten about, until December 2019 in Venom 2099, when it made its comeback with a new host, Leah Bell. Leah Bell's version of Venom is much more heroic. She got a psychiatrist blood to undergo an experimental treatment against her left arm, as it was badly burned in a crash when she was a kid. Upon discovering Venom in her, she allowed to stay with her expedition and become superheroes. The Amazing Shutterbug. Heroes Reborn was an event in 2021 where Marvel did a big what-if scenario, with the scenario being, what if the Marvel Universe is more like the DC? I mean, what if the Marvel Universe didn't have the Avengers? It lasted for 8 main issues and 10 tie issues that would span the universe. But one I'll be focusing on is Heroes Reborn Peter Parker, the Amazing Shutterbug, though there were also issues that dealt with Spider-Gwen and Miles Morales. In this universe, Flash Thompson pushes Peter to the ground and kills the spider in order to give Peter his powers, and so Peter just lives the rest of his life being normal. Except actually that's not true, as he gets bitten by a really strange creature then turns him into a spider-like being. So he tries to endgame himself, but fails and instantly breaks all of his limbs. I should also mention here that by this point in time, it was basically the Jimmy Olsen to Hyperion's Superman. Which, oh yeah, Hyperion's in this, and he's this universe's Superman. After this little endgame incident, Peter's transformation went away. So, hey, he's no longer a mortal mutation. Later, he tagged along with some S.H.I.E.L.D. agents to the White House to investigate an artifact called Pandemic Cure. But President Bill Coulson, yes, he's president of this universe, he said, like, alright guys, thanks for coming to investigate, but I gotta keep this thing a secret, so I'm gonna kill you all. And that's how Peter's story ends. Its existence in this universe is kind of sad. Oh, and I forgot to mention, May died in this universe a while ago, thanks to Hyperion, early decided her fighting a villain, Blood Spider. First appearing in Amazing Spider-Man issue 367, released in August 1992, Blood Spider, aka Michael Bingham, was a supervillain hired by Taskmaster to mimic Spider-Man in a plot to kill the wall-crawling menace. He was trained by Taskmaster himself to perfectly match Spider-Man's fighting style, and he had his own web shooters that came out of a tube connected to a backpack he wore. He also might have super strength, or at least a very high pain tolerance, and that's kind of it. He's appeared a handful of times in the original outing, but he's never been like a mainstay villain or a character without really an interesting story book. There is another Blood Spider, though, that's actually just Peter Parker from another universe in Ultimate Spider-Man. He was his universe's last hero after his world was consumed by vampires. He also made a cameo in Spider-Geddon, so that's neat. The Michael Bingham version of Blood Spider has also appeared as Spider-Man Unlimited with two different costumes. The reason for being a PlayStation exclusive is pretty much everyone's annoyed that Spider-Man is a PlayStation 4 exclusive character in Square Enix's Avengers. I thought the era of console exclusive DLC was over, but I guess not. And so a lot of people began wondering, why is he a PlayStation exclusive? Was it because of the Insomniac Spider-Man games? Well, no, it can't be that, because Spider-Man shows up in Marvel Alliance 3, which was a Nintendo Switch exclusive, and even had Spider-Man and Doc Ock's voice actors for the game reprise their roles. There are two theories as to why he became a PlayStation exclusive. The first is the official story. In 2020, it was revealed by a developer that this is because of a special relationship between Sony and Disney, with the other explanation being a bit of a conspiracy theory that I personally don't buy and think it's a little silly. But people claim that Sony gave Square Enix Insomniac's coding for Spider-Man's web slinging in exchange for the character to be a console exclusive. I don't buy this though at all. As I mentioned before, it's more than likely he's just exclusive because it's a deal with Sony and Disney. The Case of the Sinister Speller. The Case of the Sinister Speller is a LeapStar video game released in 2005. It's an action-packed story with Spider-Man going face-to-face with his most challenging foe, the Sinister Speller. In his mission to stop the Sinister Speller from rearranging letters across the city, he must spell and take photos. Now, am I really going to make fun of a video game made for literal babies? Yes, I am. By the end of this word-spelling adventure, it turns out that this Sinister Speller is actually the Green Goblin, who was being helped by a fake Spider-Man played by the Chameleon. Thankfully for the residents of New York City, Spider-Man didn't stop their awful spelling. Jokes aside, the game was created to help teach kids how to spell and read, so I guess it does its job fine. Maybe I should play this, help me pronounce things better. Shocker. First appearing in Amazing Spider-Man issue 46, released in November 2002, John Thorpe, aka the Spider-Wasp, is quite the strange modern Spider-Man villain. She's a being from the astral plane and tried to kill Spider-Man the same way as Spider-Wasp tried to kill spiders. So yes, she paralyzed him, tried to feed him to her children. Right after pretending to be able to flame in Spider-Man's past, come on TV, and give humiliating facts about the Golden Brother. You know, what Spider-Wasp's doing in real life. She's got an insane amount of powers, from superhuman speed, superhuman strength, shape-shifting, flame for teleportation, enhanced healing, and even has some claws and stingers that can cut her bone like butter. They're coated with paralyzing agents. Ultimately, she'll be defeated by Spidey. Lions are the food chain, run in both directions. Maybe I've actually never seen a spider take out a spider once or something. I have no idea. She wouldn't show up again until Sterling Spider issue 24, November 2013, where she was trying to do the same thing that Kane Parker. This time, she had a bit of fun with him as she slept with him over time and became his girlfriend, before revealing her true form. And then Kane killed her. Well, okay, we don't know that he killed her, but I mean, we never actually find out what happens to Shotgun at the end of this, and she has been seen since. So, Spider-Man, Rock Reflections of Superhero. In 1975, a rock album entitled Spider-Man Rock Reflections of Superhero was released under Lifesong Records. It featured a variety of songs that were good as rock. It had narration from Stan Lee. It's an extremely over-the-top album that has songs like High Wire, Gwendolyn, A Soldier Starts to Bleed, Peter Stays the Spider-Man Goes, Square Boy, Time Will Away, Count on Me, and No One's Ever Crush on Peter. That's what made it complete lie, because Peter Parker seemed to have like a million love interests, or at least a million different women in his life who were very clearly into him. There's also songs with Ock threatens to turn Thor and Black Panther into go-go dancers, so it's a full package. Sum first appearing in Marvel's Sum issue 1, it's August 2016. The Sum Spider-Man is a promotion character introduced in the comics. It's going to promote the Disney Sum line of stuffed plushies. In the comic, this Sum found Spider-Man inspiring, so he adapted himself to look like Spider-Man and have his abilities. He was then manipulated by the looter, then directed Ultron and helped rob banks. During this robbery, Sum tried to lure them the Avengers. He was eventually convinced to revert back to being a hero, and now lives in a renovated toy store. The rest of his sentient Sum brothers. After that, he didn't really do too much outside like a cameo or two. We can announce soon. It was the TV Mind War. First appearing in Amazing Spider-Man issue 138, released in August 1974. William Turner, aka Mind War, was a scribble leader who was born with the ability to drain the mental energy of people. He also lived things with his mind, invade dreams, and read minds, but through draining mental energy of people, that was his main hobby. At a young age, he accidentally killed his mother with his mental energy draining ability, which then caused his father to run in front of a car and, die. So, this did well for his mental health. When he got older, he wanted to live off the emotions of his neighbors. He wouldn't kill them, he'd just take their mental energy from them, just until they're about to die, and then he'd let them recharge. Now, because of his strong mind, Spider-Man was immune to his power. He was able to stop him and turn him into the police. While in prison, White Worker didn't realize that he really did these criminal actions out of guilt over his involvement in his parents' deaths. And so he stopped being a criminal and attempted to reform himself, only for him to then be exploited by criminals, which resulted in him being arrested again, and when he was released again, he became homeless and refused to use powers of anyone. So when a street gang went up to murder him, he didn't fight back and allowed the street gang to murder him. In Spectacular Spider-Man issue 22, released in February 2005. I don't really have a joke here, that's just really sad ending. Italian Spider-Man. Italian Spider-Man is a comedy series released in 2007 on YouTube. It ran for 10 episodes and pretended it was a lost Italian film, but in reality it was just a parody of foreign versions of superhero films in the 70s and 80s. With films like the 1987 Superman film, Three Fantastic Supermen, The Batwoman, which we're talking about my first guys, and Three Dead Adam, which I'll talk about a bit later. It also takes influence from foreign films like Turkish Star Wars and Turkish Rambo, directed by Dario Russo in Australia. The plot of this series is pretty wild, as Italian Spider-Man is given an asteroid with a substance that can create duplicate beings. He's tasked with defending this asteroid from the supervillain Captain Maxima. The two engage in fist fights, kaiju fights, and a surfing battle. I'm not going to spoil too much of the series. It's actually available for free on YouTube, so go watch it. Trust me, you won't regret it. The answer. First viewing of Peter Parker's Spectacular Spider-Man issue 31, released in March 1984. Aaron Nicholson, aka The Answer, takes the villain of games and movies of underwhelming experiments. So what are these powers? Well, he gained the ability to come up with whatever power was necessary to resolve a given situation. So basically, if there was a cliff, he'd temporarily be able to fly. If there was a fire, he'd be able to manipulate water for a bit to put it out, etc. For a period of time, he worked with Kingpin and tried to take down Spider-Man and Black Cat. Later, he tried to capture Dagger, as he believed that the energy manipulated from her might be able to revive Vanessa, Kingpin's wife. He did this to try to make up for his constant failures with Spider-Man and Black Cat. His plan backfired and killed him. Though because of his powers and capabilities to solve situations, he actually didn't die and survived as a being of pure energy. He'd go on to get Doc Ock restored in his physical form, only to then be arrested shortly afterwards. The last thing of note he did was when he was confronted by Toxin, and when asked by Toxin how to get rid of the symbiotes, as I can't keep from misbehaving, and it's making me do awful things. The answer just responded, you should probably just end game yourself, dude. To which Toxin tried, but failed, as the Toxin symbiote saved him. So yeah, the answer tried to get saluting, like, all himself. J.J. Abrams' Spider-Man comic. Alright, so Spider-Man #1. This is an alternate universe miniseries written by J.J. Abrams and Henry Abrams. Well, okay, mainly just Henry Abrams. From what we know, J.J. Abrams just got his name on it and let his son take the wheel. Anyways, this series about how Ben Parker II, the son of Peter Parker and Mary Jane, became Spider-Man after a tragedy involving the villain Catalyst. Might I add, kind of looks like a supervillain version of a Hunter from Halo. Peter abandons his son and being Spider-Man to the home all the time. This is because he thinks he's ill-equipped to be parents. Eventually, Ben develops power to mind blue spirits in the attic, and so Ben becomes the new Spider-Man. This comic is notable because people don't really care for it. Now, I didn't personally have it read it myself, that's why I have no opinion on it, but yeah, this comic is far from unlimited. Now, why is the reception still so bad? Well, it's mainly because people think that Peter Parker is treated kind of weird. Like in the story, Mary Jane supposedly dies, which causes him to get missing from his son, which leads to Peter eventually abandoning his son and having his son with Aunt May. Which I mean, like, if any character in comics who's not going to abandon his son, it would probably be Peter Parker. As for some lead characters introduced in the comic, there's Faye Ito, aka Ben's Black Cat, and Ike Renz, aka Catalyst, who's a former Stark Industries employee who created a chain-bending device that could bring back the dead. But Tony Stark didn't want to be God, so they shut down. This caused Ike to go mad and kill Stark. He also created the spy that turned Peter into Spider-Man, so there's also that. Jewish connection. Many people claim that Peter Parker is actually Jewish. The reason for this is because he was created by Jewish writers like Stan Lee, and oftentimes characters back then were created with heavy influence from Craig's personal lives. In fact, Stan Lee placed Peter's home in the comics in Forest Hills, a neighborhood in Queens known for its Jewish population, and Garfield has also said that his Spider-Man is Jewish, stating in 2014 that, and I quote, he owns and odds with his future because he's neurotic. He's Jewish. It's a defining feature. I hope Jewish people don't mind the cliche because my father's Jewish. I have that in me for sure. And finally, into the Spider-Verse, Peter P. Parker steps on glass during his wedding, a Jewish tradition. But yeah, for the most part, Peter Parker's depicted as either Protestant or religion is a part of it all. But there's definitely a lot of universes where Spider-Man is Jewish. The stolen ring scenes. In April 2001, 4 of the suits used to film the original Spider-Man film were stolen. In response, Sony offered $25,000 for the return of the suits. This resulted in a ton of false leads that apparently led Sony across several different continents. It wasn't until 2002 when Sony finally discovered all 4 suits. Turns out they were all stolen by a former Sony security guard named Jeffrey Glenn Gustafson. They found out that he did it because his ex-wife came forward with information. Gustafson was also in possession of a stolen Batman Forever bat suit that was worn missing in 1996, along with a mannequin bought about the belt killer. They were then also able to track down the fourth sold to a collector in Japan that he had sold it to. Gustafsson was then sentenced to 9 months in jail and 5 years probation, and was forced to pay $93,000 in restorations. Spider-Man becomes Carnage. So there's been a couple of times where Spider-Man's bonded with Carnage. In the mainline timeline, Ben Reilly bonded with Carnage in order to stop Carnage from killing anyone in Amazing Spider-Man issue 410, released in February of 1996. But it didn't last very long, as John Jameson fired off a fatal blast of microwave radiation that forced Carnage off of Ben. Then, of course, there's the far more iconic Spider-Carnage that originates from the 90s Spider-Man cartoon. He serves the final villain of the show, embraced by multiple Spider-Man Muslim diverse in the team-up. In this continuity, Carnage arrived via portal and bonded to Peter, as Peter was fighting Scarlet Spider. As Spider-Carnage, Peter then decided to end all of reality, but was defeated by a team of Spider-Men and the emotional talking to by Uncle Ben. Peter then decided to jump into an unstable